Chapter 1965. Whoosh. Without any hesitation, Dongfang Yuan retreated. Seeing this, Dongfang Lang only sneered. If Dongfang Yuan, who was at Creation Realm Level 8, could escape from his attack, he would not be at Creation Realm Level 9. Although there was only a small gap between Creation Realm Level 9 and Creation Realm Level 8, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. Moreover, he wanted to kill Dongfang Yuan, so he felt that Dongfang Yuan would definitely die. There was no need for a traitor like Dongfang Yuan to continue to exist. If they killed him, they could intimidate the others as well. Sure enough, Dongfang Lang's attack was too fast. Dongfang Yuan reacted in time. Although Dongfang Yuan managed to react in time, his speed was far inferior to Dongfang Lang's. In the blink of an eye, Dongfang Lang's fist was already in front of him. Dongfang Yuan's face was pale, and there was a flash of despair in the depths of his eyes. Seeing this, the senior elders of the Dongfang family, whose souls were controlled by Murong Yu, were all horrified. The fox mourns the death of a rabbit. Dongfang Yuan was about to be killed by Dongfang Lang's punch. But at this moment, a large hand appeared out of thin air and grabbed Dongfang Lang's fist. Silently, Dongfang Lang's fist was caught and could no longer move forward. He could not even move. Who else could it be other than Murong Yu, who grabbed Dongfang Lang's fist? Did he kill Murong Yu's slave in Purple Sun Cave? Did he ask him about it? Dongfang Lang saw that his fist was easily caught by Murong Yu and could not even move. This shocked Dongfang Lang. He was at Creation Realm Level 9, and Murong Yu was only at Bright World Realm Level 1. There was almost a gap of 2 realms between them. How could he catch his fist? Was he an expert of the Insight Realm? Dongfang Lang, what are you doing? Murong Yu looked at Dongfang Lang coldly, and while speaking, he threw a punch at Dongfang Lang with his other hand. Although Murong Yu's attack was casual, Dongfang Lang's face was grave. Since he could catch his fist so casually, it proved that his attack must be terrifying. Therefore, he also threw a punch. In the blink of an eye, the 2 attacks collided fiercely in the void. Bang! After a muffled sound, Murong Yu remained motionless. His body didn't even tremble in the slightest. Dongfang Lang was sent flying by Murong Yu's punch. Hiss! Seeing this scene, the faces of the Dongfang family's elders twitched as they sucked in a breath of cold air. Dongfang Lang was the strongest person in the family, but he could not withstand a single blow. Everyone's hearts sank. Too terrifying. Here, I'm a master. Dongfang Lang, even if you were half a step into the profound insight realm, or even a profound insight realm existence, you wouldn't be a match for me, let alone a 9th-stage creation realm existence. Submit to me. Murong Yu swept a glance at the Dongfang family's elders before his gaze landed on Dongfang Lang. Dongfang Lang's expression fluctuated as he stared at Murong Yu, with frightening, killing intent flickering in his eyes. You want me to submit? Become Murong Yu's slave? That's impossible. Ha! Dongfang Lang suddenly laughed. At the same time, an origin item with a terrifying aura shot out from his body. It rose with the wind and floated above his head. This origin item is good. I want it. Murong Yu's eyes flashed. Although Dongfang Lang's origin item was not a Murong Yu origin item, it was the best among the creation stage origin items. Murong Yu had already stretched out his hand and grabbed the origin item. Dongfang Lang was naturally unwilling. He immediately took out the origin item and slashed at Murong Yu. But Murong Yu's hand suddenly sped up and grabbed the origin item before Dongfang Lang could move it. Then there was no more. The origin item was directly put into the Hichu Luo Shu, forcibly cutting off the connection between it and Dongfang Lang. Dongfang Lang almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Even if he was a half-step to the creation stage, he could not take away his origin item just like that. Murong Yu was too strange. In fact, this was because Murong Yu had used the power of Purple Sun Cave. Otherwise, how could he take it away and suppress it? Well, I don't want to play with you anymore. Suppress all of you. After taking away Dongfang Lang's origin item, Murong Yu was not in the mood to play with them anymore. Immediately, he activated all the power of the Purple Sun Wonderland and swiftly suppressed Dongfang Lang and the others. Bang, 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 except for Dongfang Lang. The other senior elders, and even the 8th level elders, could not withstand the suppression of Purple Sun Cave. They were directly crushed and knelt on the ground. Only Dongfang Lang was struggling to hold on. Although he was not crushed, he could barely stand and could not even move. And Dongfang Lang was shocked to find that when Murong Yu suppressed him, his strength was rapidly weakening. Originally, he was at level 9 creation stage, but after being suppressed, he was about to fall to level 8 creation stage. In fact, what Dongfang Lang did not know was that except for him, the senior elders of the Dongfang family who followed him had already been weakened by 1 or 2 small realms before Murong Yu took action. When they entered Purple Sun Cave, Murong Yu had already weakened their realms. These people did not realize that they were slowly being weakened. However, Dongfang Lang's realm was too high, so he was not weakened much. Otherwise, he would have knelt down. Ignoring Dongfang Lang, who was struggling to hold on, Murong Yu began to control the souls of the other senior elders. These people, like Dongfang Yuan and the others, resisted desperately in the beginning. But in the end, their souls were still controlled by Murong Yu. Moreover, their resistance only added an incomparably painful process to them. One by one, the senior elders' souls were controlled by Murong Yu. Seeing this, Dongfang Lang's eyes were wide open and he was furious. However, after Murong Yu failed to control a senior elder, the pressure on him increased and he could not resist at all. Therefore, in the end, he could only look at Dongfang Yuan with extreme anger. If it were not for Dongfang Yuan, how could the Dongfang family be wiped out in one fell swoop? If it were not for Dongfang Yuan, they would not have come here at all. Dongfang Yuan's expression was indifferent. As Murong Yu's slave, his thoughts were to maximize Murong Yu's benefits. Dongfang Lang was only the patriarch of the Dongfang family. Even if Murong Yu wanted him to trick his father, he would do so without hesitation. There was no room for resistance. In the end, when Dongfang Lang knelt down, Murong Yu had already captured all the senior elders of the Dongfang family in one fell swoop. All of their souls had been controlled, and they had become Murong Yu's slaves. As long as Dongfang Lang was controlled or killed, Murong Yu would officially control the Dongfang family. The Dongfang family would change their surname to Murong in the future. Of course, Murong Yu would not let them change their surnames. Dongfang Lang, are you going to surrender yourself? Or do you want me to do it? Murong Yu came in front of Dongfang Lang and said with a smile. Dongfang Lang looked at Murong Yu with fire in his eyes. I only want to die. Dongfang Lang had long known that his ending would not be good. Therefore, when Murong Yu was constantly controlling the souls of others, he had tried to self-destruct. However, what made him despair was that he could not even self-destruct. At this moment, he was like a fish on a chopping board. He could only be slaughtered by Murong Yu, the butcher. This made him feel very regretful. Level 9, Creation Realm. You should be considered a top expert in the solar system. How can I bear to let you die? Don't worry. As long as you become my slave, you will soon find that it is 1,000,000,000 times better than being the patriarch of the Dongfang family. Murong Yu said indifferently and had already made his move. In fact, what Murong Yu said wasn't wrong. From the mortal world until now, which of those who had their souls controlled by him had not benefited in the end? They had reached a height that they had never thought of before. Many people had their souls forcibly controlled by Murong Yu and became Murong Yu's slaves. In the beginning, they all resented Murong Yu and refused to accept Murong Yu. However, in the end, when Murong Yu released the control of their souls, their previous resentment had long disappeared. On the contrary, they were extremely grateful to Murong Yu. This was because if it were not for Murong Yu, they might have died long ago. It was only with Murong Yu's help that they were able to attain their current realm, status, and even immortality. However, Murong Yu is only at Bright World Realm Level 1. How could Dongfang Lang believe his words? Since he could not self-destruct, he could not refuse to become Murong Yu's slave. Dongfang Lang could only frantically resist Murong Yu's control of his soul. The more he resisted, the more pain he had to endure. Moreover, this guy's realm was powerful before, so it was not easy to subdue his soul. But even so, Murong Yu would not let him go. Therefore, in the next few days, the entire Purple Sun Grotto was filled with Dongfang Lang's miserable screams. It was very horrifying. There were many disciples of the Dongfang family training in Purple Sun Grotto. When they heard Dongfang Lang's screams, some of them wondered if it was Dongfang Lang. But in the end, they denied it. Their patriarch, a supreme existence at Creation Realm Level 9, how could he let out such inhumane screams? That was just the voice of a suspected patriarch. 10 days. Dongfang Lang resisted for a full 10 days. On the 11th day, his screams stopped. Murong Yu wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead and said in a somewhat speechless manner, "Although my soul can control a few more 9th-level Creation Realm slaves, it's simply too difficult to control the souls of experts of that realm." However, looking at Dongfang Lang, a Creation Realm Level 9 powerhouse, standing respectfully in front of him, Murong Yu still felt a special sense of accomplishment. With such a powerful slave, although the solar system was big, Murong Yu could almost do whatever he wanted. Of course, Murong Yu was not such a person. A cultivator who relied on the protection of others would never be able to truly grow up. After controlling Dongfang Lang, the Dongfang family, one of the few major forces in the solar system, was finally completely under Murong Yu's control. As for the remaining low-level and mid-level elders, Murong Yu had no intention of controlling them. Chapter 1966. As long as he controlled Dongfang Lang and all the senior elders of the Dongfang family, the others would naturally be nothing to worry about. After all, Dongfang Lang, Dongfang Yuan, and the others controlled the entire Dongfang family. Who would dare to disobey them? You guys go back to the Dongfang family first. You need to keep your identities a secret. Murong Yu pondered for a moment before speaking to Dongfang Lang and the others. Murong Yu did not want to reveal the secret that he controlled the Dongfang family for the time being. Otherwise, if others found out, he and the Dongfang family would become the target of public criticism. At that time, the Sun sect and the Lunar sect would not let him go. After all, if Murong Yu could control the Dongfang family, he could naturally control these forces. Even the Sun sect was possible. In order to prevent this kind of thing from being discovered, they would naturally strangle Murong Yu in the cradle. After thinking about it, Murong Yu felt that this was not safe enough. Therefore, he set up some restrictions on the souls of the senior elders of the Dongfang family and Dongfang Lang. Once someone read their memories, this restriction would naturally hide what happened today and hide the memory that they were Murong Yu's slaves. If someone forcefully destroyed this restriction, then this restriction would automatically destroy itself and erase the relevant memories. After setting up these restrictions, Murong Yu was relieved. Then, he returned to the Dongfang family with Dongfang Lang and the others. As for the Purple Sun Grotto, let the core disciples of the Dongfang family train there. Anyway, these people were considered Murong Yu's people. Murong Yu was never stingy to his own people. Murong Yu already knew all the information about the Dongfang family's wealth after controlling Dongfang Lang and the others. Therefore, he did not need to know anything more. At the same time, he did not need the Dongfang family to change anything. What they were before, what they were now, there was no need to change. As for Dongfang Haoran's side, Murong Yu had his own plans. After returning to the Dongfang family, Murong Yu went straight to the Dongfang family's treasury. He did not want to take the Dongfang family's treasury. There was no need for him to do so. After all, the operations of the Dongfang family also required resources. The reason for this was that he learned from Dongfang Lang's memories that the Dongfang family had obtained an extremely heavy item a long time ago. Even Dongfang Lang did not know what it was and could not break it with brute force. Murong Yu guessed that the item contained an enormous amount of power. It was just right for him to refine it and raise his cultivation base. Soon, Murong Yu saw the mysterious item. It was an irregular black, stone-like object the size of a fist. "My lord, what's so special about this rock?" Dongfang Lang handed the rock to Murong Yu, and asked with some doubts. This was a part of the stone that he had obtained a long time ago. Back then, he saw that this stone was extremely heavy and could not be refined, so he brought it back to study. But after studying it for a while, he didn't find anything useful, so he threw it into the treasury. If Muronyu hadn't specifically mentioned it, he would have long forgotten about the existence of this unknown rock. Is there any more of this? Muronyu did not answer Dongfang Lang's question, but asked with a little excitement. Why was he so excited? In Muronyu's eyes, he did not know what this irregular stone was, but he could see that this stone was emitting a strong light of power. Once it was refined by him, it could at least raise his strength by a small realm. After waiting for a long time, he could finally raise his strength by a small realm. How could he not be excited? Moreover, he clearly saw that this stone seemed to have been cut off by someone and seemed to have been separated. That was why he asked this question. There's another piece about the same size as this one, but it is not in my hands. Seeing that Murongyu was suddenly so excited, Dongfang Lang replied in a daze. That's great, Murongyu shouted, giving Dongfang Lang a fright. I'll leave first. I'll come back to you in a few days. Murongyu took the unknown stone and disappeared in a flash. He couldn't wait to refine this stone to improve his cultivation. His enemies were simply too powerful, forcing him to quickly raise his cultivation level. As for Dongfang Lang and the others, Murongyu did not want to use them, because once he used them, his enemy would not only be Li Jiang, the 8th grade elder of the Sun Sect, but the entire Sun Sect. Legend has it that the Sun Sect even had a supreme existence at the Insight Realm. Murongyu could not afford to provoke an existence at this level. At least until he broke through to the Creation Realm, he would know whether or not he could provoke an Insight Realm expert. In the Hichu Luoshu, Murongyu sat cross-legged on the ground, but he did not immediately refine the stone. Instead, he adjusted his state. It took Murongyu 2 hours to adjust his state to the peak, and then he threw the unknown stone into the Primal Chaos Furnace. The Primal Chaos Furnace trembled slightly, and the stone began to be refined. Murongyu liked to refine this kind of object the most. Refining an origin tool, because the origin tool was refined by someone, there were many formations inside. The more formations there were, the higher the grade of the origin tool, and the more difficult in time it would take to refine. But an object like the stone did not have a grade at all. Although it contained a huge amount of power, it could be refined very quickly. An incomparably vast and pure energy flowed into Murongyu's body like a torrential flood. Suddenly, Murongyu's strength rose at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon, his strength had risen to the peak of the bright world realm. In the end, under the impact of the huge power, Murongyu's realm barrier was easily torn apart like a layer of paper. At this moment, Murongyu's realm naturally rose to the second stage of the bright world realm. After the breakthrough, the stone was almost completely refined. In the end, after Murongyu consolidated his realm, the power of the stone was completely consumed. Although Murongyu was a little disappointed, it was only for a moment. Second stage of the bright world realm. Feeling that he had become more powerful, a smile gradually appeared on Murongyu's face. Originally, his combat power was comparable to the first stage of the creation realm. Of course, this referred to pure combat power. In terms of magical power, he still did not have it. After all, the existence of the creation realm could already create things. Although Murongyu's combat power was comparable to the creation realm, he did not have the ability to create things. After the breakthrough, Murongyu felt that his current combat power was about the same as Li Nan's. In fact, it was even stronger. Although he could not compete with the existence of the third stage of the creation realm, it would not be easy for the third stage elder to kill him. If he could bring out his weapon shards, even a third stage Blessed Realm Elite would be able to defeat him. Of course, this was only Murongyu's own estimate. There were still too many variables as to whether he could kill the third stage of the creation realm. Moreover, cultivators of the same realm had different cultivation methods, combat skills, and treasures, so their combat power would be different. If there is another piece of this stone, I should be able to increase my realm by a small level. Morongyu thought in his heart. His figure flashed and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already beside Dongfang Haoren. This guy was thrown into the Hichu Luoshu by Morongyu early on and did not know what was happening outside. Therefore, when he saw Morongyu appear, he hurriedly ran over and asked, "Morongyu, how are you? Are you injured or anything?" Morongyu shook his head and then laughed. "I have already solved this matter. From today onwards, you will be a core disciple of the Dongfang family. The Dongfang family will focus on training you, and they will no longer have any ideas about the thunderous drum. In the future, you can peacefully cultivate in the Dongfang family." Dongfang Haoren was stunned. He felt like he was dreaming. How could the Dongfang family give up on the thunderous drum? How could they focus on training him? How could they not have any ideas about the thunderous drum? Well, even if this was true, how did Morongyu reach an agreement with them? "Morongyu, is this all true? If it is true, what price did you pay?" Dongfang Haoren said with a heavy heart. Morongyu smiled brightly. "I did not pay any price. Dongfang Lang is also a reasonable person. I talked to him and he agreed." In fact, Morongyu did not pay any price. Instead, he received great benefits. He controlled the entire Dongfang family, and even his strength increased. However, Dongfang Haoren still had some doubts. Why didn't he know that Dongfang Lang was so easy to talk to? If it was so easy to talk to, would he have ended up like this? However, he had always trusted Morongyu. Since Morongyu had said so, he definitely wouldn't lie to him. Moreover, he never thought that Morongyu would collude with Dongfang Lang to plot against him. Because he understood Morongyu. Morongyu is not such a person. Morongyu also knew that Dongfang Haoren would not believe it for a while, so he was too lazy to talk to him. Instead, he directly brought him to the Dongfang family and handed Dongfang Haoren over to Dongfang Lang and the others. It was not until a day later that Dongfang Haoren walked out of the meeting hall with an excited face. Now, he finally believed Morongyu's words. However, after he came out, he did not find Morongyu, because Morongyu was with Dongfang Lang at this time. "You said that there is a similar stone in the hands of the Golden Flame Castle. Back then, you shared it with them?" Morongyu frowned. If the other stone was in the hands of the Golden Flame Castle, then it would be more difficult to obtain. "Master, I can exchange with the Golden Flame Castle. I believe they are willing to exchange." Dongfang Lang saw Morongyu frown, so he made a suggestion. Morongyu shook his head. "If you want to exchange for that thing, the Golden Flame Castle will definitely raise the price. They will even extort a lot of good things from you." Now, the Dongfang family belonged to Morongyu. Morongyu would not be extorted by the Golden Flame Castle. Then, he could only think of a way himself. Dongfang Lang was silent. He knew that what Morongyu said would happen. But if it was not like this, then how could he get the stone from the Golden Flame Castle? Chapter 1967. Like the Dongfang family, the Golden Flame Castle was one of the top 10 forces apart from the Sun Sect and Lunar Sect. However, with Morongyu's ability, he could definitely sneak into the treasure vault and take out what he needed. However, Morongyu didn't dare to guarantee that the other party's stone was in the treasury. Of course, as long as Morongyu entered the treasure vault, even if there was no stone, Morongyu would not go in vain. After all, with the Golden Flame Castle's strength, there would definitely be a large number of Creation Realm origin weapons in the treasure vault. As long as there were enough Creation Realm origin weapons, wouldn't Morongyu's strength increase? Therefore, Morongyu planned to make a trip himself and take out what he needed. Dongfang Lang pondered for a moment. Then his eyes lit up, and he hurriedly said, "My lord, in 3 months' time, it will be the exchange day of the top 10 forces. At that time, we will send out Bright World Realm core disciples to compete. At the same time, there will also be very rich rewards. There will be origin weapons, elixirs, heavenly treasures, and so on. As long as I do something, I might be able to get the Golden Flame Castle to take out the stone as a reward. At that time, as long as my lord gets first place, it will be enough." "That's a good idea." Morongyu nodded slightly. In this way, he could guarantee that the other party would definitely take out the stone. It was better than Murong Yu going to the treasure vault of the Golden Flame Castle. Moreover, with Murong Yu's strength, wouldn't it be easy for him to dominate the Bright World realm? Getting first place could not be easier. Moreover, the Golden Flame Castle was the home ground this time. In the end, it was decided. Murong Yu continued to stay in the Dongfang family, while Dongfang Lang left the Flying Wolf Star and flew toward the Golden Flame Castle. The exchange of disciples that happened once every 100 years was very important to the top 10 forces. After all, there would be some dark horses that would appear in every exchange and then soar to the sky. These dark horses, and those who performed outstandingly, would be the talents that the 10 major forces would focus on nurturing in the future. They could be said to be the pillars of the 10 major forces in the future. When Dongfang Lang left the Flying Wolf Star, the Dongfang family had already started the selection. Only the top 1,000 disciples of the Bright World Realm would be selected for the exchange. As long as they were in the Bright World Realm, it didn't matter if they were in the Bright World Realm 1 or 9. Moreover, regardless of whether they had participated before or not, they could continue to participate. There were no restrictions. Murong Yu did not participate in the selection. He was going to compete as the number 1 seed. Furthermore, with his strength, it was simply outrageous for him to compete with those Bright World Realm brats for a spot. After all, even a low-level Creation Realm cultivator was no match for him. However, Dongfang Haoran still went to participate. Dongfang Haoran's strength had increased very quickly during this period of time. Coupled with the thunderous drum, his battle prowess was extremely terrifying. However, his foundation was still too weak. After entering the top few thousand, he was eliminated. The final victors were all Bright World Realm Level 9 disciples. Only a few Bright World Realm Level 8 disciples rose up as dark horses. Dongfang Lang had been in the Golden Flame Castle all this time and had not returned. Therefore, the team this time was led by Dongfang Yuan and a few Rank 8 elders. A huge flying ship stopped in the square in front of the Dongfang family, and the 1,000 disciples walked in one after another. At the same time, Murong Yu, Dongfang Yuan, and the others also walked in. However, when Murong Yu entered the flying ship, there was a burst of booing from the ship. The Dongfang family disciples all looked at Murong Yu with contempt and disdain. After all, Murong Yu was only at the Bright World Realm Level 2. Moreover, they had never seen Murong Yu before. Now that they saw Murong Yu walking together with Dongfang Yuan and the others, they knew that he was definitely a backdoor entrant. "Kid, who are you? Why did you step on this flying ship? Could it be that with your strength, you want to get a good ranking for our family?" A dark horse of the Bright World Realm Level 8 walked up to Murong Yu proudly and said with disdain. The expressions of Dongfang Yuan and the others changed slightly. Murong Yu was their lord, the head of the Dongfang family. How dare this person speak to him like this? Was he courting death? A murderous intent flashed across Dongfang Yuan's eyes. Just as he was about to speak, Murong Yu's voice rang in his ears. "Don't expose my identity. I will settle this matter." After sending the message, Murong Yu looked at the dark horse with a smile on his face. This guy had defeated countless Bright World Realm Level 9 cultivators of the Dongfang family and rushed into the top 1,000 with his Bright World Realm Level 8 strength. However, Murong Yu realized that these people were all quite arrogant and thought that they were invincible. Perhaps this was the common problem of the disciples of the big families. If it was before, Murong Yu would not have bothered with them. However, the Dongfang family was now his, so he naturally would not ignore it. He was going to teach these people a lesson today and let them know that they were not the best in the world. A Bright World Realm Level 8 cultivator can enter the top 1,000. Your strength is barely passable. However, your strength is nothing more than trash in my eyes. It's not just you. Even if all of you are the same, you're just a bunch of trash. I can knock you down with a few kicks. What do you have to be proud of? Murong Yu's words instantly angered the 1,000 most powerful Bright World Realm cultivators of the Dongfang family on the spaceship. Immediately, All of them glared at him angrily. Some of them even walked over with murderous intent. Very good. I wonder if you dare to accept the challenge of me. A trash in your eyes? The dark horse of the bright world realm level 8 laughed angrily and looked at Muronyu with murderous intent in his eyes. Why wouldn't I dare? Muronyu smiled faintly and added, one move. I only need one move to send you flying. The dark horse of the bright world realm level 8 was furious. He took a step forward, unleashed his full strength, and slammed his palm down at Muronyu. With this guy's strength, even an ordinary bright world realm level 9 cultivator would not be able to withstand his palm. One could imagine how angry he was. However, a look of disdain appeared on Murongyu's face as he sent out a kick. Bang! The dark horse of the bright world realm level 8 felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. Then he saw Muronyu shrink rapidly. It was not that Muronyu shrank, but that he was sent flying by Murongyu's kick. Bang! The dark horse fell to the ground fiercely. Then he could not get up. Although Muronyu did not kill him, it was not a problem to make him suffer a little. Hiss! Everyone couldn't help but gasp. Which one of the top 1,000 cultivators was not the most outstanding bright world realm cultivator of the Dongfang family? However, this person was sent flying by Muronyu as if he was kicking trash. Just how strong was this person? It must be because of his sneak attack. He caught the other party off guard. Yes, that must be it. After a while, this thought appeared in everyone's mind. Trash. Who else is not afraid of death? Muronyu glanced at the faces of the 1,000 people with a look of disdain. Let me. A young man of the bright world realm, level 9, shouted and rushed forward. However, what greeted him was Murongyu's foot. Bang! 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 One by one, people rushed forward, but the result was the same. They were all sent flying by Muronyu. No one could withstand one move, not even half a move. You are definitely not a bright world realm cultivator, but a creation realm cultivator. You are hiding your strength. After a long time, one of the disciples who had been kicked away roared. Immediately after, the other disciples also glared at Muronyu with furious gazes. Muronyu couldn't help but laugh. These people really couldn't afford to lose. A loss is a loss. Don't find excuses. He is indeed only a bright world realm level 2 cultivator. Dongfang Yuan couldn't stand it anymore. Although he was already Murongyu's slave, as an elder of the Dongfang family, he felt quite embarrassed that these juniors couldn't afford to lose. Seeing that Dongfang Yuan, an elder of the 8th rank, was angry, those who had lost shut up. Although they were still unwilling, they didn't dare to say anything. However, they still didn't believe that Muronyu was really only a bright world realm level 2 cultivator. Muronyu shook his head. The gap between the disciples of the Dongfang family and Shengzhen's disciples was too big. Under his guidance, Shengzhen's disciples were all people who could afford to lose. They couldn't blame their opponents for losing. They could only blame themselves for not cultivating well enough and not being strong enough. It's time for the Dongfang family to change. If this goes on, the Dongfang family will decline sooner or later. Muronyu shook his head and thought to himself. Due to Murongyu's strength, no one came to challenge him. Therefore, Muronyu entered a room to cultivate. The spaceship was controlled by Dongfang Yuan and the others, and it flew towards the Golden Flame Castle. While the people of the Dongfang family were rushing towards the Golden Flame Castle, the disciples of the top 10 forces like the Sun Flame Cult and the Thunder Valley were also rushing towards the Golden Flame Castle under the escort of their elders. Muronyu didn't know how much time had passed as he cultivated. On this day, he felt the spaceship shake violently. Then, he heard Dongfang Yuan's voice. My lord, we have arrived at the Golden Flame Castle. Then, Muronyu walked out of the room. Then, the disciples of the Dongfang family left the spaceship one after another. In the end, the spaceship was kept by Dongfang Yuan. Disciples of the Dongfang family? Are you here to get first place again? Last place? Don't worry, the Thunder Valley won't fight with you. Ha! Before this person finished speaking, a burst of mocking laughter was heard. Hearing this, the faces of the disciples of the Dongfang family darkened. It was a disgrace to the Dongfang family to be last place for more than 10 consecutive years. But who asked the disciples of the Dongfang family to be so disappointing? The Dongfang family never lacked bright world realm genius disciples, but most of them were ordinary geniuses. There were no top geniuses. Therefore, the Dongfang family was last place for 10 consecutive years. The disciples of the Dongfang family were very angry, but they only glared at the disciples of the Thunder Valley. No matter how bad the Thunder Valley was, it was still better than the Dongfang family. How could they refute? Could they say that the other party was only last place for 10,000 years? Being at the bottom of the ladder was better than being at the bottom of the ladder. Chapter 1968. Seeing this, Morong couldn't help but be stunned. Then he turned to look at Dongfang Yuan and the other Dongfang family elders. Dongfang Yuan and the other elders blushed, but they still nodded to Morong, admitting that this was the truth. Morong couldn't help but be speechless. These old guys were too prideful, weren't they? Until now, no one had told him that the Dongfang family was the bottom. If this hadn't happened, Morong probably wouldn't have found out. My lord, this time we'll have to see your power and get first place for our Dongfang family, Dongfang Yuan said with a smile. Morong suddenly realized that Dongfang Lang wanted to kill two birds with one stone. Using this exchange, Morong could get what he wanted, and at the same time, get what the Dongfang family wanted. These fellows had even schemed against their master. Morong was speechless, but he didn't reject this result too much. After all, if he wanted to get what he wanted, he had to get first place. Of course, it could be personal or family first place. Haha, if it were me, I wouldn't have the face to come after getting last place 10 times in a row. I wonder how it feels to be last place every time. The disciples of the Thunderclap Valley were still laughing at the Dongfang family. The disciples of the Dongfang family all glared at the disciples of the Thunderclap Valley, but they didn't know how to refute. At the sight of this, even Dongfang Yuan and the other grade 8 elders' faces darkened. Although what the other party said was true, there was no need to sprinkle salt on their wounds, right? All right, everyone, stop laughing at the disciples of the Dongfang family. They're also working hard to cultivate, and they're last place every time. This is very painful. We have to admire their spirit of sacrifice. At this time, an elder of the Thunderclap Valley spoke. On the surface, this elder was scolding the disciples of the Thunderclap Valley, but in fact, he was mocking the Dongfang family for being trash. He just didn't want to be dirty with his words. Dongfang Yuan and the others' faces turned black, but they were too lazy to say anything. They just quickly left with the disciples of the Dongfang family. As for the elders of the Thunderclap Valley, they didn't care at all. After all, although they were part of the 10 great clans, the competition was usually very fierce. They were all competitors and enemies. Why are you guys walking so fast? Another level 8 elder from the Thunderous Valley said in a strange tone. Morong glanced at these people indifferently and sneered in his heart. Thunderclap Valley, this second-to-last power, was simply too arrogant. Don't they know the meaning of the pot calling the kettle black? Morong, you must defeat the people of the Thunderous Valley this time. I support you. A Bright World Realm Level 9 disciple walked over and spoke to Morong in a deep voice. Most of the disciples of the Dongfang family had the surname Dongfang. However, there were still a few people whose surname was not Dongfang. After all, the Dongfang clan had existed for so many years, but there were still some members of the clan who had wandered outside. And these wandering clansmen continued to reproduce, so it wasn't impossible for their surnames to change. Moreover, the identity that Dongfang Lang had arranged for Morong was that of a descendant of a wandering clansman who had returned to the clan. Yes, defeat those arrogant idiots from the Thunderous Valley. The disciples said angrily and handed their hopes to Morong. It seemed that Morong's previous defeat of them was not without effect. Although some people were not convinced by Morong, they were already convinced in their hearts. However, Morong's brows were slightly wrinkled. It was a good thing that these people were convinced by him. However, the two sides hadn't even fought yet, and these people had already lost confidence in him? If the Dongfang clan was surrounded by enemies one day, would they escape without fighting? I can't do it alone. I still need everyone to defeat the Thunderous Valley together. Moreover, everyone is an outstanding disciple of our Dongfang clan and is powerful. The disciples of the Thunderous Valley aren't that strong. As long as we are confident, we can definitely defeat them. Moreover, this time, not only will we defeat the Thunderous Valley, but we will also defeat the Sun Flame Cult and Golden Flame Castle and become the #1 clan. Murong Yu's voice wasn't loud, but it sounded clearly in the ears of 1,000 Dongfang clan members. Moreover, his words didn't have any emotional elements. However, when everyone heard this, they were suddenly filled with confidence, and their eyes lit up. Their confidence soared all of a sudden. This was because Murong Yu used the Soul Divine ability. When he spoke, he subtly influenced their souls and directly mobilized their confidence. As long as they were confident and performed well, it wouldn't be difficult to defeat others with their strength. The 4-yuan star where the Golden Flame Castle was located was called the Golden Flame Star, which was similar to the Flying Wolf Star. Murong Yu and the others were arranged in the Golden Flame Castle's base camp, and the other disciples of the 8 major forces were also arranged in the same way. My lord, after my operation, the Golden Flame Castle has agreed to take out that mischievous stone as a reward. However, it will be used as a reward for the #1 clan and will be mixed with other rewards. On this day, Dongfang Lang found Murong Yu and told him the result. Murong Yu frowned slightly. Dongfang Lang immediately explained, because no one knows the use of that mischievous stone, the other 9 major forces don't recommend it to be used as a reward for the individual competition. Therefore, it can only be used as a reward for the clan competition. However, I can't emphasize it, otherwise it will attract the attention of those old foxes from the Golden Flame Castle. Murong Yu nodded. Although the #1 clan competition required everyone to work together, with Murong Yu's strength, he alone was enough. Moreover, my lord, this time, the top 10 people in the individual competition can enter the Lai Guang secret realm together with us to hunt for treasures. When he said this, Dongfang Lang was excited. The Lai Guang secret realm was a recently discovered secret realm, and it was jointly discovered by the leaders of the 10 major clans. Therefore, this secret realm was naturally shared by the 10 major forces. Moreover, this was the first time after the exchange meeting to hunt for treasures. What did it mean to enter a secret realm for the first time? It meant a large amount of treasures. After all, no one had ever been able to enter the Lai Guang secret realm, so there must be a lot of good things inside. After listening to Dongfang Lang's explanation, Murong Yu's eyes lit up. He liked secret realms and grotto heavens the most. This was because most of his strength had increased due to exploring various secret realms and winters. Otherwise, with his huge appetite, he didn't know if he could devour enough vitality to break through a small realm in one reincarnation cycle. Bang! On this day, a figure suddenly smashed the door of the courtyard where Murong Yu was and finally fell heavily in the courtyard, causing the ground to shake. In the room, Murong Yu slowly opened his eyes, and a touch of displeasure appeared on his face. At the same time, his figure flashed, and he had already left the room and appeared in the courtyard. He wanted to see who dared to destroy the door of his courtyard. However, when he saw that person, he was taken aback. This person was a disciple of the Dongfang family, a level 9 bright world realm existence. At this time, this person was lying on the ground, covered in blood, groaning in pain, and couldn't stand up for a while. Murong Yu frowned slightly, and when he was about to ask, a disdainful voice was heard. "You are Murong Yu, the most powerful bright world realm disciple of the Dongfang family?" Murong Yu was stunned, and he raised his head to look in the direction of the voice. Ever since he came to the Golden Flame Castle, he had been in the courtyard and didn't communicate with anyone, let alone say that he was the most powerful bright world realm disciple of the Dongfang family. What was going on? The people of the Dongfang family are too useless. Each and every one of them is trash. I'm here to ask how powerful you, the #1 person, are. An arrogant young man walked in, his face full of disdain. He was really shot, even though he was lying down. Murong-yu couldn't help but be speechless. Although he was only a level 2 Bright World Realm cultivator, he had the strength of a low-level Creation Realm cultivator. Fighting with a Bright World Realm disciple? It was like an adult fighting with a child. There was no interest at all. Senior brother, the other party, is a disciple of the Sun Flame School, and he has been constantly challenging the disciples of the Dongfang family. Junior brother and the others are useless. No one could defeat him, and we have embarrassed the family. That's why you brought me out? The number 1 Bright World Realm disciple of the Dongfang family? Murong-yu looked at that guy speechlessly, but he didn't say anything. Even if he didn't ask, he already knew how he became famous in the Golden Flame Castle. You are a disciple of the Sun Flame School? What's your rank in the Bright World Realm? Murong-yu indifferently looked at the Sun Flame School's disciple. I'm just a low-level disciple of the Sun Flame School, the young man said arrogantly. He deliberately put himself down, but he had defeated many disciples of the Dongfang family, which was obviously trampling on the Dongfang family. If the Dongfang family couldn't even defeat a low-level disciple like him, wouldn't they be trash? Is that so? Murong-yu smiled faintly and suddenly kicked out. Bang! This lousy disciple of the Sun Flame School was directly sent flying by the kick. In the end, he landed on the ground with his face flat on the ground. Go back and tell your Sun Flame School's low-level disciples that from tomorrow onwards, I will challenge you all one by one. Just wait to be beaten up by me. Murong-yu's faint voice sounded in the ears of the low-level disciple, causing his face to instantly turn red. How was he an unrated disciple? His battle prowess was ranked in the top 10 among the 1,000 disciples that came from the Sun Flame School. But now, he was actually sent flying by Murong-yu's kick? It wasn't that he wasn't prepared. He was already prepared, but Murong-yu was simply too strong. Just you wait. The young man stood up with a red face and was about to leave. Stop. Give me your spatial treasure. This is the compensation for injuring my junior brother. At the same time, Murong-yu had already taken a step forward and arrived in front of the young man. At the same time, he reached out with his hand. The young man was infuriated and was about to attack with all his strength. However, Murong-yu was much stronger than him, and his attack was completely ineffective. The spatial treasure was directly snatched away by Murong-yu. Chapter 1969. The young man was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. Although he had defeated and even injured many disciples of the Dongfang family. However, his spatial treasure contained all the treasures he had collected throughout his life. Now, it had been taken away by Murong-yu. How could he not vomit blood? Give me back my space treasure. The young man glared at Murong-yu with murderous intent. He looked as if he wanted to swallow Murong-yu alive. All right, I'll give it back to you. Murong-yu smiled faintly and threw the space treasure back to him. This time, the young man was stunned. He never thought that Murong-yu would return his spatial treasure so straightforwardly, taking it away and then returning it. What was this? However, the young man quickly vomited blood. This was because when his spiritual sense pierced into the treasure space earlier, he discovered that it was empty. The treasures that had piled up like a mountain had long since disappeared without a trace. Not even a single pill was left behind. Even an idiot would know that the treasures had been moved away by Murong-yu. Murong-yu had indeed returned his space treasure, but it was empty. Therefore, the young man could not help but vomit blood. The young man was about to speak, but Murong-yu had already sent him flying with a kick. Only then did the young man remember that Murong-yu's strength was unfathomable. In addition, Murong-yu could instantly destroy his space treasure and move all of his treasures. This was not something that he could take head-on. Therefore, although the young man wanted to slap Murong-yu to death, he still left resentfully in the end. Although Murong-yu did not dare to kill anyone on the Golden Flame planet, humiliating him would not be a problem. The disciple of the Dongfang family who was injured by the young man from the Sun Flame School in Murong-yu's courtyard was stunned. He knew that Murong-yu was strong, but he did not expect Murong-yu to be so strong. The other party had defeated many disciples of the Dongfang family, but he was sent flying by Murongyu's kick. This strength was definitely the strongest in the Bright World realm. Senior apprentice brother. At this time, the man walked over and bowed deeply to Murongyu. His face was full of respect and fear. The strength that Murongyu had displayed had deeply shocked and intimidated him. These are all the other party's treasures. Murongyu tossed a spatial treasure to the other party. However, the disciple of the Dongfang family waved his hand and handed the spatial treasure back. How could he dare to accept it? Senior martial brother, these are your spoils of war. Junior martial brother absolutely cannot and does not dare to take them. Therefore, senior brother, please don't make things difficult for junior brother. The person said in a trembling voice. Murongyu saw that the other party absolutely did not dare to accept it. Moreover, although there was basically nothing that caught his eye among these treasures, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat, so he took it back. Senior martial brother, are you really going to challenge the disciples of the Sun Flame School? The person asked carefully. Murongyu shook his head and revealed an unfathomable smile. There is no need for me to challenge them. They will automatically send themselves to me. You better spread the word about this. Sunflame sect, huh? If they dare to come today, I will make them bleed. Hearing this, the eyes of the Dongfang family's disciple lit up. Then, he quickly left Murongyu's courtyard. Not long after, the news of Murongyu kicking the youth of the Sun Flame School flying and challenging the strongest disciple of the Sun Flame School quickly spread across the Golden Flame planet. Instantly, countless people were alarmed and rushed to the vicinity of Murongyu's courtyard. In less than 2 hours, countless Bright World realm existences had gathered outside Murongyu's courtyard. Apart from the disciples of the 9 major forces, there were more disciples of the Golden Flame Castle. As long as one was alive, one would like to watch a show. Furthermore, among the Bright World realm disciples, the Dongfang family had always been at the bottom, while the Sun Flame School was at the top. A bottom-ranked existence wanted to challenge a top-ranked power? This was really a piece of news. Furthermore, the news of the youth of the Sun Flame School going around challenging and defeating many disciples of the Dongfang family had spread like wildfire. Therefore, when they heard that Murongyu had kicked the youth away, many people did not believe it. Therefore, they all wanted to come and take a look. Ignoring the increasing number of people, Murongyu sat quietly in the courtyard and closed his eyes to rest. Murongyu, come out and die. At this moment, a thunderous voice came from outside the courtyard. Murongyu slowly opened his eyes and looked outside the courtyard. A group of people quickly walked over from afar. There were 10 people in the group, and the one who spoke was one of the 10 people. However, the youth who had been kicked away by Murongyu was also among the 10 people. These 10 people should be one of the top 10 Bright World realm experts of the Sun Flame School. Murongyu slowly stood up, then took a step forward and appeared in front of the courtyard. Who are you? Murongyu looked at the other party and said indifferently, without any fluctuations in his emotions. Zhouingda, 9th among the Bright World realm disciples of the Sun Flame School. I heard that you want to challenge us? Zhouingda was a well-built middle-aged man. At this moment, he was looking at Murongyu with a murderous aura as he slowly approached. Who knew that Murongyu would shake his head and say, "Ninth, not interested." As he spoke, Murongyu's gaze fell on one of the 10 people who was about 16 or 17 years old. Murongyu felt that this person was the strongest. He should be comparable to a first-level creation realm expert. Although he was still not a match for him, he could barely be considered an opponent. It couldn't be helped. Murongyu was too strong. It was too difficult to find someone of the same level as him. It was basically impossible. Zhouingda was furious. Even if Murongyu had defeated the 10th among them, he might not be a match for him. This guy didn't even look at him. He was simply humiliating him. Thus, he took a step forward and looked coldly at Murongyu. Murongyu, do you dare to accept my challenge? Murongyu's gaze returned to Zhouingda. Then he shook his head and said, I'm very busy. If any Tom, Dick, or Harry wanted to challenge me, then wouldn't I be very busy? How would I have so much free time? If you want to challenge me, it's not impossible, but there has to be a prize. Did he need a prize to challenge him? Zhou Yingda's vision darkened, and he almost fainted. The surrounding people also looked at Murong Yu speechlessly. This really made them speechless. A top-grade Bright World Realm Origin artifact is the price for challenging me. As long as I accept the challenge, this Origin artifact is mine. In addition to this top-grade Bright World Realm Origin artifact, those who want to challenge me also have to bet all their belongings and all the treasures in their spatial treasures. Murong Yu's words were shocking. The 10th Bright World Realm expert from Yangyin sect, who had his spatial treasure snatched by Murong Yu, couldn't help but tremble when he heard this. His heart was bleeding again. Okay. Zhou Yingda didn't hesitate at all and directly agreed. Then, he threw out a top-grade Bright World Realm Origin artifact and his spatial treasure. Of course, no one knew if he had come prepared or not. Okay, I accept your challenge. Murong Yu also threw out a spatial treasure. It was an empty spatial treasure. Although Murong Yu said so, no one checked their spatial treasures. Therefore, it was really hard to say whether the other party's spatial treasure had any treasures. For someone like Murong Yu, the spatial treasures on his body were only for show. All of his treasures were stored in He Tu and Luo Shu. Take this. Seeing that Murong Yu was ready, Zhou Yingda shouted and was about to attack. But right at this moment, Murong Yu shouted for them to stop. Zhou Yingda felt like he had punched the air and was extremely uncomfortable. Zhou Yingda, are you still interested in a bet? Zhou Yingda looked at Murong Yu angrily. How do you want to bet? What do you want to bet? It's very simple. If I can defeat you in one move, you lose. After you lose, I don't want any more treasures from you. You just need to go beat up one of the Thunderclap Valley's disciples. How about it? Hearing this, the faces of the Thunderclap Valley's disciples who were watching the show not far away turned black. This was their bet. Was this to humiliate them? This bastard is too despicable. A Thunderclap Valley's disciple looked at Murong Yu with a murderous look. He rubbed his hands as if he wanted to beat up Murong Yu. What kind of bet was this? The Dongfang family's people secretly laughed when they heard this. Zhou Yingda's face also turned black. It wasn't that Murong Yu's condition was fraudulent. Wasn't it just beating up one of the Thunderclap Valley's disciples? This was not difficult at all. It was just that Murong Yu could defeat him in one move. Wasn't this too ridiculous? He absolutely didn't believe it because he was confident in his own strength. So he agreed. If you can't defeat me in one move, what will you do? Murong Yu grinned. Very simple. Then I will also beat up one of the Thunderclap Valley's disciples. The faces of the Thunderclap Valley's disciples turned black again. What kind of situation was this? No matter if Murong Yu lost or Zhou Yingda lost, one of them wouldn't be able to escape the fate of being beaten up. The most despicable thing was that they didn't specify who they were going to beat up. If they chose to beat up the weakest disciple, that person would definitely not be able to resist. Do you have any other conditions to add? Zhou Yingda impatiently looked at Murong Yu. Murong Yu shook his head. So Zhou Yingda roared and took a step forward. His figure flickered as he rushed towards Murong Yu. During this process, his big hands stretched out and erupted with a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth. It covered the sky and earth as it ruthlessly grabbed towards Murong Yu's head. Murong Yu repeatedly shook his head. Weak, too weak. As he spoke, he also made his move. A fist slowly blasted towards Zhou Yingda. Compared to Zhou Yingda's lightning-fast attack, Murong Yu's speed was as slow as a snail. Zhou Yingda was furious when he heard this. His strength had long reached the half-step blessed realm. Murong Yu actually dared to say that he was weak? He really didn't know if he was really that strong or if he was just pretending. Chapter 1970. Bang! Under everyone's gaze, Murong Yu's movements, which were as slow as a snail, suddenly accelerated. Before Zhou Yingda's attack landed, his fist had already landed on Zhou Yingda's chest. After a dull, loud noise, Zhou Yingda's tall figure turned into a stream of light, drawing a beautiful parabola in the air like a broken rag doll, and finally fell to the ground fiercely. Everyone who saw this scene couldn't help but narrow their eyes. Murong Yu really defeated Zhou Da in one move? The surrounding people did not believe it, but the young man whose space treasure was snatched away by Murong Yu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Even Zhou Da could not withstand Murong Yu's attack, so it was not so embarrassing for him to be defeated by Murong Yu in one move. Zhou Da fell to the ground with a dull and disbelieving expression on his face, and he did not stand up from the ground for a long time. He had been defeated, and he had been utterly defeated. He found it hard to accept this result. He was a half-step to the creation realm expert, and Murong Yu was only at the second level of the Bright World realm. Had his battle strength really reached the creation realm? Only someone with the battle strength of the creation realm could easily defeat him. Murong Yu stretched out his hand and grabbed Zhou Da's space treasure and the top-grade Bright World realm origin artifact. Zhou Da, did I win? Zhou Da seemed to have just woken up. With a grunt, he got up from the ground and said with a gloomy expression, "You win." As he spoke, Zhou Da suddenly turned around and flew straight in the direction of the Thunderous Valley. Before the surrounding people could even react, an unlucky guy from the Thunderclap Valley was kicked to the ground by Zhou Da, and then he was beaten up. When the people from the Thunderclap Valley reacted and rushed over to save him, Zhou Da had already left quickly. On the other hand, that unlucky bastard was beaten black and blue by Zhou Da. His face was as swollen as pork. Perhaps even his mother would not be able to recognize him. Sure enough, it was a good beating. Zhou Da, you're courting death. The disciples of the Thunderclap Valley were all furious. This was simply an undeserved calamity, or perhaps they were fish in the moat that were caught in the crossfire. In the face of Thunderclap Valley's shocking fury, Zhou Da simply shrugged his shoulders. There's nothing I can do about it. I lost to Murong Yu. This is my bet, so I'll naturally accept my loss. If any of you are not convinced, come at me. Thunderclap Valley's disciples were all furious. Some of them even wanted to rush out and beat Zhou Da up. But in the end, no one came out, because at this moment, the disciples of the Sun Flame School had also taken a step forward and were eyeing them covetously. If they dared to make a move, it would definitely cause a huge chaotic battle. It was still unknown who would win and who would lose, but it would be a tragedy if the results of the exchange were affected because of today. If they returned, they would definitely be severely punished by the higher-ups of their forces. However, this incident seemed to make the relationship between the two forces even more unfriendly. But it didn't matter. The 10 great forces were originally competitors and had never been truly friendly. After storing Zhou Da's spatial treasure into He Tu and Luo Shu without even looking at it, Murong Yu turned to the other disciples of the Yang Flame sect and asked, "Is there anyone else who's not convinced? But let's make it clear, if you want to challenge me, you have to take the initiative." "I'll do it." Murong Yu, is it the same challenge? If you can't defeat me in one move, the loser has to go beat up the disciples of the Thunderclap Valley? A young woman leisurely walked out and threw down a top-grade Bright World Boundary origin treasure and spatial treasure, then said. Murong Yu nodded. Thus, the woman made a move. This woman's ranking was a bit higher than Zhou Da's. She was ranked 7th among the 10 great Bright World Boundary disciples of the Sun Flame School. But unfortunately, she was still not Murong Yu's opponent. She was still sent flying by Murong Yu's punch and defeated. And the way he defeated her was almost exactly the same as Zhou Da's. This caused the surrounding people to curse Murong Yu for not knowing how to show mercy to the fair sex. Murong Yu was naturally somewhat disdainful of this. The other party was his enemy. Showing mercy to the enemy? That would be cruel to himself. Moreover, the more beautiful a woman was, the more dangerous she was. Even if you treat her with tenderness, who knows, she might kill you in one strike while you're treating her with tenderness. Seeing that the woman had been defeated, the people of the Thunderclap Valley consciously walked together to prevent the woman from attacking any of them. However, although the woman's strength was far inferior to Murong Yu's, she was much stronger than the majority of the disciples of the Thunderclap Valley. Moreover, because the other party was in a group, 5 of them were beaten up by the woman in the end. This caused them to cry out in depression and made everyone call the woman violent. Even the seventh-ranked disciple could not withstand one move from Morongyu. Now, everyone knew how powerful and extraordinary Morongyu was. Therefore, for a moment, no one from the Sun Flame School challenged Morongyu. Perhaps the only one who could defeat Morongyu was the number one person among them. Further away, the big shots of the 10 great forces were secretly watching this side. Seeing this scene, the rank 8 elders of the Sun Flame School were all extremely depressed. As for the level 8 elders of the Thunderclap Valley, their faces were even darker as they glared at Dongfang Yuan and the others. Although it was the disciples of the Sun Flame School who attacked, the main culprit was still Morongyu. Dongfang Yuan, where did this disciple of yours come from? Has he been hiding it all this time? A level 8 elder of the Sun Flame School was speechless. Dongfang Yuan and the others snickered in their hearts. Morongyu's true battle prowess was comparable to a third-stage manifestation realm martial artist. If it weren't for the fact that the competition's prize was something Morongyu needed, he wouldn't have bullied these children. This person is a disciple of the Dongfang family who was stranded outside. He just returned not long ago. Dongfang Yuan held back his laughter and said plainly, "Oomph. So what if he is strong? He is still a level 2 bright world realm cultivator. The bottom will always be the bottom." A level 8 elder of the Thunderclap Valley said unhappily. Dongfang Yuan and the others sneered. "What if our Dongfang family is not the bottom this time? Do you dare to take a bet?" "Why not?" The level 8 elder of the Thunderclap Valley was furious. "A profound insight essence pill," Dongfang Yuan said in a deep voice. Hiss, the surrounding people could not help but gasp. Profound insight essence pill, as the name suggested, was a pill related to the profound insight realm. Although the profound insight essence pill could not increase the effect of becoming a profound insight realm cultivator, it could increase the probability of reaching the half-step profound insight realm. Although the probability was not high, it was only about 1 in 10,000. However, in the entire solar system, apart from the Sun sect, who had a half-step profound insight realm cultivator, perhaps only the Lunar sect had a half-step profound insight realm cultivator. Apart from these two forces, there were no other forces. There was not even a peak creation realm cultivator. Although the probability of reaching the half-step profound insight realm with the profound insight essence pill was not high, it was still 1 in 10,000. Who would not want to get it? It was said that the Dongfang family obtained the profound insight essence pill from a mystic realm. However, due to the scarcity of various materials and the low probability of success, even the level 7 elders of the Dongfang family did not have such a pill. Only elders of the 8th level and above would have one each. It seems that you are very confident in the Dongfang family's advancement. The level 8 elder of the Thunderclap Valley looked at Dongfang Yuan with a gloomy face. Dongfang Yuan looked at him coldly, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. If even Morongyu could not help the Dongfang family advance, it did not matter if they lost the pill. 1 drop of sky, spider, poison water. The level 8 elder of the Thunderclap Valley gritted his teeth and took out a bottle. Sky spider poison water. The surrounding level 8 elders could not help but frown slightly, the muscles on their faces twitching. The sky spider poison water was actually the venom of a ferocious beast called the sky spider. The sky spider was not very powerful. It was only at level 9 of the creation realm. However, its venom was extremely terrifying. It could even poison a half-step profound insight realm cultivator to death. If Dongfang Yuan was to fight the level 8 elder of the Thunderclap Valley and the sky spider poison water was used, he would definitely die if he was careless. They did not expect this old man to have such a thing. Everyone looked at the level 8 elder with vigilance and unknowingly distanced themselves from him. On the other side, no one from the Sun Flame sect came out to challenge Morongyu. Even the top disciple of the top 10 disciples did not challenge him. "Senior brother, why don't you challenge Morongyu? Although he is powerful, he might not be a match for you." Zhou Da came in front of the 16 or 17-year-old youth and said respectfully. The youth shook his head. "I can't see through this person, so I don't have the confidence to defeat him. What? The young man did not lower his voice, so everyone around him was shocked. The disciples of the other forces did not feel anything. However, the people from the Sunflame sect were extremely shocked. It should be known that the youth's battle strength was extremely powerful. On the way here, he even single-handedly killed a level 1 creation realm cultivator. Even someone of his strength could not see through Murong-Yu and even said that he could not defeat Murong-Yu. Was Murong-Yu even more powerful than him? Could it be that Murong-Yu had the battle strength of a level 2 creation realm cultivator? Murong-Yu was only a level 2 bright world realm cultivator. Did that not mean that he had the battle strength of an entire realm above him? Wasn't that too terrifying? There's no point in fighting here. Let's leave everything for the exchange in a few days. Remember, don't provoke the disciples of the Dongfang family. After the youth said this, he looked deeply at Murong-Yu and floated away. Murong-Yu shook his head because he saw an extremely strong battle intent deep in the youth's eyes. It was obvious that the youth was eager to have a battle with him. However, it was a pity that the youth was still not a match for him. He was afraid that he would be disappointed. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge me? Murong-Yu's gaze slowly swept across the other forces and finally landed on the disciples of the Thunderclap Valley. Although the people of the Thunderclap Valley were furious and wanted to kill Murong-Yu, none of them made a move. Yet, no one made a move. It was obvious that even the experts among them couldn't see through Murong-Yu. Chapter 1971. Due to Murong-Yu's terrifying battle prowess, no one dared to challenge him. Murong-Yu was naturally too embarrassed to take the initiative to bully these children. Therefore, in the following time, nothing happened between the major forces and the Dongfang family. On the other hand, some conflicts erupted between the Thunderclap Valley and the Sunflame School. The reason was naturally because of the culprit, Murong-Yu. Although Murong-Yu was the culprit, the disciples of the Thunderclap Valley should have come to take revenge on Murong-Yu. However, they couldn't beat Murong-Yu. Therefore, they didn't come to look for Murong-Yu. Instead, they came to look for the disciples of the Sunflame School. However, the top experts of both sides didn't make a move. Only ordinary disciples made a move. Therefore, both sides won and lost some. This was enough for the idle disciples to enjoy the show. Time passed in a flash, and soon it was the day of the exchange. The exchange was held in a huge square in the Golden Flame Castle. In addition to the 10 major forces that Murong-Yu was participating in the exchange, the square was also filled with many spectators who heard the news and came to watch. The reason why these people were qualified to enter was because they paid a huge price. Every one of them had to buy a ticket. Therefore, the host of each exchange would make a lot of money. Why would these people pay such a huge price to enter? This was because these people were from small forces, small clans, and even rogue cultivators. In the same realm, their cultivation techniques and battle skills were inferior to the top bright world realm geniuses of the 10 major clans. In the past, many rogue cultivators would be enlightened after watching these people's exchanges. In the end, they would break through continuously, and it was even possible for them to directly break through to the creation realm. The more this was the case, the more people would come. And the more the host of the exchange would make, the more money the host of the exchange would make. Around the square, the 10 major forces sat in 10 different directions. Murong-Yu had just arrived at the Dongfang family side when he felt fierce gazes from both sides. He looked around and couldn't help but laugh. He didn't know if it was deliberately arranged by the Golden Flame Castle or a coincidence, but the Dongfang family side was the Thunderclap Valley and the Sunflame School. These two forces have been slapped in the face by Murong-Yu, so how could they be nice to the Dongfang family? In response, the Dongfang family's people looked back with even fiercer gazes. If you have the ability, why don't you challenge and defeat Murong-Yu and challenge him? At this point, the Dongfang family was thoroughly convinced of Murong-Yu's abilities. If anyone dared to say anything bad about Murong-Yu, they would definitely raise their fists to argue with them. Who asked Murong-Yu to be the strongest bright world realm cultivator in the Dongfang clan? to the Dongfang family's eldest senior brother. In fact, over the past few days, many disciples of the Dongfang family had come to apologize to Murongyu, saying that they had failed to recognize Mount Tai. To the Dongfang family, Dongfang, to the Dongfang family clans twos, to the Dongfang family, to the end. To the end, to the end. To the point to you use Dongfang. In addition to the 10 major forces, there was also a huge platform in front of the square. At this moment, the leaders of the 10 major forces were all sitting on the high platform. When all the people from the 10 superpowers had arrived, the Lord of the Golden Flame Castle, who was the host, spoke. He thanked everyone for coming to the exchange and talked about some things to pay attention to in the competition. Murongyu didn't care about this at all. He only paid attention to the rules of the competition after the other party talked about it. The rules of the competition were quite simple. 10,000 people would draw lots and fight each other. Every time they defeated someone, they would advance to the next round. The winner would be decided. This was the winner of the individual competition. After the individual competition, the team competition would continue. After the nonsense was said, the competition began. Then, the drawing of lots began. There were 100 people fighting each time, which meant that there were 50 arenas in the square. There weren't any arenas in the square, but how difficult was it for experts of their level to condense 50 arenas? The high-level elders of the Golden Flame Castle immediately took action. Instantly, arenas rose from the ground. Then, the leaders of the 10 forces, 10 supreme beings of the 9th level of the creation realm, added restrictions on the arenas at the same time. With their strength, no matter how fierce the battles in the arenas were, they couldn't break their restrictions. They prevented the spectators from being accidentally hurt and, at the same time, prevented the people outside from secretly attacking or helping the people in the arenas. In the first round, Murongyu from the Dongfang family will fight against Chunlei from the Thunderous Valley. Rin Min from the Golden Flame Castle will fight against Xuan Hong from the Golden Flame Castle. As the voice of an elder from the Golden Flame Castle sounded, the people whose names were called jumped into the arenas. Murongyu is fighting in the first round. When they heard Murongyu's voice, the crowd was in an uproar. The strength that Murongyu had displayed was simply too powerful. News of it had long since spread among the 10 major forces. As for the 2 disciples from the Golden Flame Castle fighting each other in the first round, the spectators didn't find it strange. This kind of thing happened all the time. It was only a matter of time before disciples from the same force met. Murongyu faintly smiled as he took a step forward. In a flash, his figure had already landed on the stage. Whoosh! As soon as Murongyu appeared, many gazes fell on him. Murongyu had long been used to this. Gold would always shine, and a piece of gold like him would shine brighter than the sun wherever he went. Whoosh! Murongyu's opponent also appeared in the arena. However, compared to Murongyu's natural and unrestrained manner, Chunlei was a little timid. Obviously, he was not used to this kind of occasion. Murongyu shook his head. His mental fortitude wasn't up to standard. Murongyu, are you ready? I'm going to make my move. Chunlei looked at Murongyu nervously. Even his voice was a little trembling. Okay, come on. Murongyu smiled faintly and motioned Chunlei to attack first. Roar. Chunlei roared as if to encourage himself. Then he burst out with his strongest attack and blasted towards Murongyu. However, during this process, he still had a nervous expression on his face. In fact, the fear in his eyes was even more intense. It was obvious that this guy knew Murongyu's strength and knew that he was no match for Murongyu. However, due to some pressure, he still attacked bravely. Murongyu shook his head and slapped out. He did not want to waste time on an opponent of this level. The attacks from both sides were about to collide. At this moment, 2 terrifying rays of cold light shot out from Chunlei's eyes. At the same time, a ray of cold light appeared in his hand. This was a dagger that flickered with a faint green light. It was obvious that this was a poisoned origin tool. A sense of danger shot out from Chunlei's body. At this moment, there was no fear or nervousness on Chunlei's face. There was only malevolence and viciousness. This was because Chunlei's attack was already very close to Murongyu. When the poisoned dagger appeared, it was about to pierce into Murong Yu's body. Despicable. The surrounding people who saw this scene couldn't help but curse out loud. Even the disciples of Thunderclap Valley could not help but blush. This Chun-Lei was despicable and vicious. Where was the demeanor of a disciple of a big force? You can be more despicable and vicious, but don't do it in front of everyone. Won't you be despised by others? The reputation of Thunderclap Valley was ruined by him. Chun-Lei's eyes flashed with madness. He did not care whether his method was despicable or vicious. As long as he killed Murong Yu, he would become famous. He would even be valued by the sect. As long as the dagger pierced Murong Yu. Not to mention that Murong Yu is only a bright world realm cultivator. Even a creation realm cultivator would be killed. However, in the next moment, the expression on his face froze. Because a big hand appeared out of nowhere and firmly grabbed his wrist that was holding the dagger. A strong force acted on his hand, causing his big hand to stop in the void. The tip of the dagger had already pierced Murong Yu's clothes. Just a little bit more, and it would have pierced Murong Yu's skin. Once the skin was pierced, Murong Yu would die without a doubt. But he would not have a chance now. Idiot, do you really think I will be fooled? Murong Yu's disdainful gaze sounded in Chun-Lei's ears. From the moment Chun-Lei stepped on the stage, Murong Yu was already on guard. Those who were able to come here, which one of them wasn't a person with a firm and resolute heart? How could they be so nervous in the face of everyone's gazes? Therefore, Murong Yu concluded that the other party must be faking it. There must be some conspiracy, because he was on guard. In fact, even if he was not on guard, Chun-Lei could not succeed, because the difference in strength between Murong Yu and Chun-Lei was too big. This poison should not be bad, right? Why don't you give it a try? Murong Yu sneered, then his big hand slipped. Chun-Lei's hand, that was holding the dagger, suddenly bounced and directly pierced into Chun-Lei's hand. Just as the dagger pierced into Chun-Lei's body, Chun-Lei's face instantly turned pale. Beads of sweat the size of soybeans continuously appeared on his forehead. On the other hand, Chun-Lei let out a miserable shriek as he rolled on the ground. Murong Yu looked coldly at Chun-Lei, who was rolling on the ground, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. If they were not on the stage, he would have killed this despicable and sinister person with a punch. The turn of events was too fast, so fast that the surrounding people did not even have time to react. By the time they reacted, Chun-Lei's screams had stopped. It was not that he had been cured, but that he was already dead. Soul poison. Murong Yu realized that Chun-Lei's soul had been completely corroded by the green poison, and it only took a few breaths. One could imagine how terrifying the poison was. Murong Yu wins. The referee of Murong Yu's stage said emotionlessly. During this process, he did not help Chun-Lei. Firstly, there was not enough time. Secondly, he hated Chun-Lei. Even if there was enough time, he would not help him. Seeing Murong Yu retreat from the stage unscathed, most people could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. On the other hand, Thunderclap Valley was silent. They all looked at Murong Yu with hatred. Although Chun-Lei deserved to die, he died at the hands of Murong Yu, and Chun-Lei was still a member of Thunderclap Valley. Therefore, they naturally resented Murong Yu, who caused Chun-Lei's death. Chapter 1972. There were a total of 1,000 people from the top 10 forces competing, and 500 people would be eliminated in the first round. However, none of the 500 people were able to end their battles as quickly as Murong Yu. Some of them even fought for an entire day before ending their battles. Therefore, after the first round was over, a full 5 days had passed. However, for Rebirth Realm experts, they were truly immortal existences. They didn't have much, but they had plenty of time. Therefore, they all watched the competition patiently. As for Murong Yu, he was a little sleepy from waiting. No matter how fierce and cruel the battles were, they were like children fighting to him. He had no desire to watch it all. However, during this process, Murong Yu still discovered some top experts from the top forces. Each of the top 10 forces would more or less have a level 1 creation realm cultivator who was at level 9 of the bright world realm. Whether it was in terms of strength or resources, the top 10 forces were far inferior to the lunar sect and solar sect. Even they had geniuses of this level. Then what about the lunar sect and solar sect? Were there any level 2 or level 3 creation realm peerless geniuses at level 9 of the bright world realm? There should be. Muronyu thought in his heart. At the same time, Muronyu also had a feeling that he would come into contact with geniuses of this level soon. After the first round of the competition ended, there was a half-a-month break before the second round of the competition. This time, Muronyu didn't appear at the start of the match. Instead, he waited until the very end. Naturally, there was no suspense in his battle. Moreover, Muronyu was not afraid of exposing himself. After he came up, he directly blasted his opponent down with a punch, not giving his opponent a chance to attack. This made his opponent extremely depressed. In the third round, there were only 250 people left. Muronyu was unstoppable and entered the fourth round with a strong momentum. At this time, there were only 125 people left. One person had a bye. Muronyu, on the other hand, was lucky enough to get a bye. Very quickly, Muronyu advanced all the way and directly rushed into the top 10. During this process, Muronyu also encountered a few Thunderclap Valley disciples. The disciples of Thunderclap Valley were gnashing their teeth at Muronyu. It was as if Muronyu had exterminated their entire family. But inevitably, Muronyu was too lazy to talk nonsense with them and sent them flying with a punch. As a result, many Thunderclap Valley disciples were defeated by Muronyu. Unknowingly, Muronyu had incurred the jealousy and hatred of the people of Thunderclap Valley. Muronyu could even feel a strong killing intent from the Thunderclap Valley. If it weren't for the fact that they were part of the 10 major forces, the disciples of the Thunderclap Valley would have probably swarmed over and killed him. Among the top 10, there was one from each force, and each force had people with battle prowess that exceeded their own realm. In the first round of the top 10, Muronyu's opponent was the strongest Bright World Realm disciple of Thunderclap Valley, AI Xinghua. Muronyu, I have to admit that you have already exceeded my expectations to be able to advance into the top 10. But this is your end. AI Xinghua stood not far in front of Muronyu and said with a cold expression. Muronyu looked at the other with a calm expression. It seems that you are very confident. I am really looking forward to being beaten down by you. Seeing Muronyu mocking him, AI Xinghua didn't get angry. He just continued to indifferently transmit his voice to Muronyu. Little bastard, you shouldn't have killed Qinlei. How can the disciples of our Thunderclap Valley be so easy to kill? Since you have met me, you are dead meat. However, I will not kill you openly. I will let you suffer all kinds of torture before you die. His voice was cold and his expression was ferocious. Muronyu frowned slightly, and a trace of killing intent flashed in his heart. He didn't have any interaction with this person at all, and Qinlei's death was completely his own fault. This person actually wants me to die? In that case, he might as well fulfill his wish and kill him. Therefore, Muronyu didn't say anything. He took a step forward and took the initiative to attack for the first time. AI Xinghua sneered and rushed forward. He erupted with a powerful aura and crazily attacked Muronyu. Muronyu also raised his strength to the first level of the creation realm. In fact, the strength he erupted with after coming to the Golden Flame Castle did not exceed the first level of the creation realm. Otherwise, it would be too shocking. In fact, he was already shocking enough now, and many people had already paid attention to him. However, Muronyu didn't care. His current appearance and soul aura were not his original body. As long as he left this place and restored his original appearance, who would know that he was Muronyu from the Dongfang family? There were many people named Muronyu in the world, and a few of them might be peerless geniuses. Because of this, Muronyu didn't use an alias and used his real name instead. AI Xinghua's combat power had also reached the first level of the creation realm. Therefore, before he erupted with a stronger combat power, Muronyu could only fight hard with him. Moreover, Muronyu deliberately created a situation where Muronyu was at a disadvantage not long after the two sides exchanged blows. Everyone who saw this scene couldn't help but shake their heads. Muronyu could be said to be the biggest dark horse in this year's exchange. It was very terrifying to have the combat power of the first level of the creation realm at the second level of the bright world realm. Originally, everyone thought that Murong-Yu would be invincible all the way and eventually win the individual competition. But now it seemed that the top 10 was his peak. Although there were rewards for the top 10, how could it be compared to the reward for the first place? The faces of the people from the Dongfang family darkened, and they all looked at Murong-Yu in the arena with worry. Murong-Yu's battle was not only about him, but also about the Dongfang family. For a long time, the Dongfang family's ranking in the individual competition had stopped at the 10th place and had never even reached the 9th place. As long as Murong-Yu defeated AI Xinghua, he would rush to the top 5. Top 5? How long had it been since the Dongfang family had such a brilliant result? Kill him. Kill him. Compared to the lifeless Dongfang family side, the Thunderclap Valley side was surging with emotions, and everyone was shouting loudly. Damn it! Aren't we too kind to those bastards from the Thunderclap Valley? Hearing the shouts of the people from the Thunderclap Valley, the disciples of the Dongfang family were furious and glared at the Thunderclap Valley. On the other hand, the people from the Thunderclap Valley glared back without showing any weakness. In the arena, Murong-Yu was getting more and more unbearable, and even AI Xinghua was suppressing him. However, there was no panic on Murong-Yu's face, but it was a little gloomy. On the other hand, AI Xinghua's face was full of excitement. He knew that as long as this continued, he would defeat Murong-Yu in less than half an hour. Looking at the happy AI Xinghua, Murong-Yu sneered in his heart. With his strength, how could he be suppressed by AI Xinghua? Of course, he did this on purpose. As the saying goes, the higher you stand, the more painful it will be when you fall. AI Xinghua will be crying later. Moreover, Murong-Yu also found that during the battle, AI Xinghua's power was constantly seeping into his body, bones, flesh, and even meridians. This guy wanted to use his power to destroy his physical body and then torture him before killing him. It was indeed insidious. Murong-Yu pretended that he didn't notice anything and let the opponent's power pour into his body. In this process, Murong-Yu's soul force had also penetrated into AI Xinghua's soul space. In the case where AI Xinghua didn't have any awareness, his soul force was like a spider's web, firmly entangling the opponent's soul. As long as he wanted, he could destroy AI Xinghua in an instant. But Murong-Yu wouldn't do this. He wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine. Half an hour passed. Murong-Yu looked more and more embarrassed, but he still wasn't defeated. This had exceeded AI Xinghua's expectations, so he seemed a little impatient. After an hour, Murong-Yu looked more embarrassed, but he still wasn't defeated. AI Xinghua couldn't help but be angry. His mood fluctuated violently, and he became more and more irritable. After a few hours, Murong-Yu was beaten to the point where he couldn't fight back. But AI Xinghua still couldn't deal with him and couldn't blast him off the stage. On the contrary, AI Xinghua seemed to be somewhat powerless. By now, the disciples of Thunderclap Valley no longer had the strength to shout. After being unable to defeat Murong-Yu for a long time, they all lost the motivation to continue shouting. But the Dongfang family was full of confidence. Although Murong-Yu's strength was not as good as AI Xinghua's, his endurance was absolutely terrifying. Maybe in the end, he could even exhaust AI Xinghua to death. Not only the people of Dongfang family thought so, even other people thought so. Murong-Yu's endurance was really too terrifying, and in the process, he didn't even use elixirs to replenish his strength. His power seemed to be limitless, inexhaustible, and endless. And some people also found that although Murong-Yu was being chased and beaten, he didn't seem to be attacked by AI Xinghua. Why is this little bastard's strength so endless? AI Xinghua was very irritated. He could feel that a lot of his strength had poured into Murong-Yu's body, but it didn't seem to have much effect. Because Murong-Yu's strength was still in the dominant position, his strength could affect, but the effect was not big. After a few hours, AI Xinghua obviously couldn't take it anymore. His strength had been consumed by more than 10%. Under everyone's gaze, Murong suddenly burst out with a strong strength. He saw a flaw exposed by AI Xinghua, and then directly punched AI Xinghua's chest. Bang! A big hole was directly blasted in AI Xinghua's chest, and his whole body was blasted out, leaving the stage. You are not suppressed at all. You are deliberately pretending. The moment he was blasted out, AI Xinghua finally reacted. Yes, I am deliberately doing this, Murong said coldly, and, at the same time, the soul power that enveloped AI Xinghua's soul like a spider web suddenly contracted. Chapter 1973. AI Xinghua suddenly screamed, and then his eyes rolled back. Everything in front of him turned black, and he lost all consciousness. Of course, Murong didn't kill AI Xinghua. He just locked AI Xinghua's soul power. Under the strong pressure, AI Xinghua couldn't bear the severe pain and fainted. And this was just the beginning. For people who wanted to kill him, and AI Xinghua wanted Murong to suffer all kinds of pain before dying, Murong would never be lenient. His soul power gradually tightened day by day, and gradually eroded AI Xinghua's soul. Eventually, his soul became weaker and weaker, and finally collapsed completely, and then died. After being tricked by Murong AI Xinghua's battle strength would gradually decline. In other words, after being defeated by Murong he could only maintain the 10th place at most. The other 9 people could easily defeat him. Even those who were ranked lower could easily defeat AI Xinghua, because AI Xinghua was already crippled. Shua, an 8th-level elder of Thunderclap Valley, flew over and hugged AI Xinghua in the air. After checking that AI Xinghua was fine, he quickly retreated. However, when he returned, he fiercely glared at Murong. His eyes flashed with a terrible, murderous intent. This made Murong depressed. Were all the people of Thunderclap Valley like this? In fact, this was the case. As the saying goes, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. From the disciples of Thunderclap Valley, one could see the virtue of their elders. For example, the Yang school was better. At that time, Murong almost beat up their top 10 people one by one. Although they had some resentment towards Murong, it was not so fierce. It was just within the normal range. Who cares? Could it be that this guy still wanted to kill him? If he dared to make a move, he would definitely not be lenient. He would directly ask Dongfang Lang to kill this fool, who let the opponent be an 8th-level elder. No matter how powerful Murong was, he was no match for an 8th-level elder. Only Dongfang Lang could easily kill the other party. 10 days later, the competition resumed. This time, it was divided into 2 stages. Those who passed the first round and entered the top 5 would fight for a higher ranking. Those who were defeated in the first round would fight for the 5th to 10th positions. Murong had it by this time, and in the eyes of outsiders, he was quite lucky. Murong heaved a sigh of relief at this outcome, because if he wanted to go on stage, he would have to fight like he did with AI Xinghua and drag it out for a few days. It was worth mentioning that ever since AI Xinghua was injured by Murong, his condition had been deteriorating. Although his injuries had recovered, he was getting weaker and weaker, and his strength was getting worse and worse. Even though the Valley Master of the Thunderclap Valley had checked AI Xinghua several times, he still didn't find anything. Murong's methods were very secretive. Plus, they weren't soul cultivators. How could they discover Murong's dirty tricks? There were no injuries, but the situation was getting worse, which made the Thunderclap Valley feel quite surprised. In particular, those 8th rank elders and the Valley Master were even more furious. AI Xinghua's aptitude was the most outstanding in the Bright World realm, and he was very likely to become an 8th rank elder in the future. At the very least, he would be a 7th rank elder. If he withered like this, then the Thunderclap Valley's loss would be great. However, they didn't find any problems. It must be Murong's doing. The people of the Thunderclap Valley pushed all the responsibility to Murong. Although they all believed that Murong had the ability to do this, they still pointed to Murong. Perhaps Murong was just a scapegoat, but they couldn't find the cause and the result of pushing the blame away. But what they never expected was that Murong was really the mastermind behind the scenes. Because of Murong's dirty tricks, AI Xinghua, who was expected to rush into the top 5, decisively suffered a tragedy. He was punched out by a disciple of the Blazing Red sect and was knocked unconscious. In the end, he only got 10th place, which was a great gap from the result he had expected. On the other side, after many days of hard work, Murong successfully defeated the young master of the Sun Flame sect who looked to be 16 or 17 years old and won the championship. In this regard, the disciples of the Dongfang family were all very excited, because they didn't know when the Dongfang family had such a good result. However, unlike their cheers, Murong and even the 8th rank elders of the Dongfang family and Dongfang Lang were not very happy, because they all knew that from the moment Murong participated in the competition, the first place would definitely be his. The rewards were soon distributed. The first place reward was very rich. In addition to a high-grade creation stage origin weapon, there was also a medicinal pill that could improve the breakthrough to the creation stage. Although it was not as effective as the Heaven's Inquisition Divine Vine and the Star Core, the effect was not bad. It should be a good thing that many half-step creation stage experts yearn for. However, these things are not attractive to Murong. He had the Star Core and did not need these medicinal pills at all. Moreover, compared to the Star Core, the medicinal pill contained too little power and was not worth mentioning. Of course, this medicinal pill was useless to him, but it was still very useful to Zhao, Jiqing, and the others. Therefore, he immediately threw it to Hichu and asked him to use the Yin-Yang cauldron to duplicate and refine the medicinal pill. The creation stage origin weapon was not very useful to Murong. After all, his combat power was comparable to the 3rd level of the creation stage. If he wanted to devour a creation stage origin weapon to improve his cultivation, he would probably have to devour a higher grade creation stage origin weapon or more. As expected, the item that Murong needed was not in the rewards of the individual competition. After resting for half a month, the team competition began. This competition was even more important than the individual competition to the 10 great forces. This was because the results of this competition directly affected the ranking of the 10 great forces. In the past, the Dongfang family had always been at the bottom. Every time they came, they would be the supporting character and accompany the others. The rules of the competition were soon announced. 2-on-2 fights. Each family could send a maximum of 10 people to participate in the competition, or 1 person could participate. On the Dongfang family side, Murong naturally did not pass on the responsibility to others. As for the others, Murong really did not look down on them, but their strength was not enough. Murong still did not understand. The Dongfang family could definitely be ranked in the top 5 among the 10 great forces at the Elder level and even the Patriarch level. But why were they so weak at the Bright World realm? It was completely inconsistent with the Dongfang family's strength. Coincidentally, Murong's opponent this time was the Thunderous Valley again. When he saw the people from the Thunderous Valley step into the arena, Murong could not help but reveal a bright smile. "You trash, come at me together? I'll take care of you all together." The 10 people from the Thunderous Valley, including AI Xinghua, were furious. In the next moment, except for AI Xinghua, who did not rush up due to his status, the other 9 people all burst out with their strongest strength and rushed up while shouting, attacking Murong. "You trash are simply a disgrace. Now, I'll let you go back the way you came." Murong laughed and immediately attacked. Bang, bang, bang. Almost 1 punch per person, these disciples of the Thunderous Valley were all smashed out by Murong in less than a few breaths of time. They fell out of the arena and wailed endlessly. After blowing away all the flies, Murong approached AI Xinghua step by step. "AI Xinghua, do you want to go down by yourself? Or do you want me to help you? Help your sister die for me." AI Xinghua suddenly burst out and rushed towards Murong in a flash. However, Muron Yu's face showed a mocking expression, and at the same time, he kicked at him. Under the suppression of Muron Yu's soul power, this guy's strength had fallen to the half-step to the Blessed Realm. Therefore, Muron Yu did not need to waste time fighting with him and sent him flying with a kick. Wow! Seeing this scene, the spectators all cried out in surprise. Both sides were fighting so fiercely before, but now he was sent flying by Muron Yu with a kick? Was AI Xinghua afraid? Or had he not recovered from the injuries he suffered before? This was not the only thing that made everyone exclaim. The most important thing was that Muron Yu represented the entire Dongfang family in the arena, but he was the fastest to defeat his opponent in the battle. He rushed into the top 5 in one fell swoop. Even if Muron Yu was defeated in the next round, the Dongfang family's ranking would rush to the top 5 in one fell swoop. Therefore, the Dongfang family was boiling with excitement. In the face of the family's honor, everyone was quite united. Therefore, when Muron Yu walked back slowly, he was greeted by the respectful gazes of the Dongfang family's disciples. In their hearts, Muron Yu's prestige was even higher than those 8th-level elders. Although the 8th-level elders were powerful, they could not get the Dongfang family out of the embarrassing position of being at the bottom. However, Muron Yu did it. In the next round, Muron Yu still went up alone. The other disciples with average strength were easily sent out of the arena by Muron Yu. It was only when he was up against the strongest Bright World Realm disciple that Muron Yu had to spend a long time to deal with. In the end, without any suspense, Muron Yu successfully won first place in the team competition. When he received the first place reward, Muron Yu heaved a sigh of relief. This was because he saw an item in the reward that was similar to the stone in Dongfang Lang's hand. Moreover, this item was bigger than Dongfang Lang's stone and contained more power. It should be able to raise his cultivation by a small realm. Muron Yu inwardly felt gratified. Now that he'd obtained this stubborn rock, his participation in so many battles wasn't in vain. If it were not for this stone, he would not have participated in these competitions. What was the point of fighting with children? He might as well use the time to cultivate. Chapter 1974. In the Hichu Luo Shu, Muron Yu took out the irregular stone that was bigger than Dongfang Lang and contained more power. Until today, he still didn't know what this stone was. However, there were too many things in this world, and no one knew everything. Even if Muron Yu controlled the entire chaos space in the future, he probably wouldn't know about the entire chaos space. Therefore, Muron Yu didn't hesitate and immediately threw it into the chaos furnace to start refining. Although this stone was much bigger than the previous one, Muron Yu's current strength was also a small realm stronger than before. Therefore, his refining speed was faster. The primal chaos furnace trembled slightly as the rock was refined at an extremely fast speed. An incomparably large amount of energy immediately surged into Muron Yu's body. After a long time, as Muron Yu's body trembled violently, an aura that was at least 100 times stronger than before was emitted from his body. This also meant that he had successfully broken through to the 3rd level of the Bright World Realm. His true combat power had reached the 3rd level of the Creation Realm. In fact, if he used his weapon fragment, he could even kill a 4th level Creation Realm elite. Because as Muron Yu's strength grew, he could erupt with even more power from the weapon fragment. Unfortunately, although this stone contained several times more power than the previous one, it was only enough to help him break through to the Creation Realm. However, it was only enough to allow Muron Yu to break through to the Bright World Realm. It wasn't even enough for him to consolidate his cultivation. If he didn't consolidate his realm, once an accident happened, it was very likely that his realm would drop. Once his realm dropped, it would be difficult to cultivate back up in the future. Therefore, Muron Yu, who had no choice, could only refine the few Creation Realm origin weapons in his hands to consolidate his current realm. It's time to explore the Intense Light Secret Realm. I wonder if the Intense Light Secret Realm can raise my realm by a small realm, or even more. Muron Yu thought in his heart, looking forward to it. The next moment, he appeared in his courtyard in the golden flame castle from the Hichu Luo Shu. Whoosh! However, as soon as Murong Yu appeared, an extremely strong aura of death enveloped him. At this moment, all the hairs on his body stood on end. Murong Yu's rich combat experience allowed him to react immediately. In a flash, he had already retreated, but it was too late. Whoosh! A large hand suddenly appeared out of nowhere from the room, shattered the void, and landed a punch on Murong Yu's body. At this moment, the feeling of death in Murong Yu's heart reached its peak. Upgrade! Upgrade! Murong Yu roared angrily in his heart. He had already broken through to the third stage of the blessed realm, and his powerful strength instantly enveloped his entire body. Bang! At this moment, the huge hand had already slammed into Murong Yu's body. Murong Yu felt as if a gigantic 4-yuan star had smashed into his body. It directly shattered his power shield and turned it into millions of fine powder that dissipated between heaven and earth. After the power shield was shattered, the opponent's fist had already landed on Murong Yu's body. The terrifying power exploded and sent Murong Yu flying. Murong Yu let out an earth-shattering roar, and his clothes were instantly shattered into fine powder. His body, which was as strong as a chaotic space realm yuan artifact, was now covered in shocking cracks. Blood spurted out and splattered across the sky. However, at this moment, the weapon fragment finally appeared in time. Under Murong Yu's full control, the weapon fragment turned into a black flowing light and slashed into the fist. Clang! After an earth-shattering sound, the weapon fragment bounced back and once again turned into a black flowing light and entered Murong Yu's body. At the same time, the large hand that was attacking Murong Yu was also successfully repelled. Murong Yu could finally take a breather. The tree of life in his body was frantically flushing, and his body, which had almost been shattered, was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this moment, Murong Yu had already taken out the Hichu Luo Shu and the weapon fragment. They surrounded him and protected him firmly. At the same time, Murong Yu finally had time to look in front of him at the person who had launched a sneak attack on him. Standing in front of him was a middle-aged man who was deeply shocked. This was the person who had launched a sneak attack on Murong Yu. Murong Yu judged from the power radiating from his body that this person should be a level 4 creation realm existence. An existence of this realm would be a level 4 elder even in the Sun sect. A mid-level elder status was not low. However, Murong Yu had never seen this person before. He did not know why this person had launched a sneak attack on him in the courtyard. Moreover, this person had sneaked in this time. Was he not afraid of being discovered? Although a level 4 elder was very powerful to Murong Yu, he was like an ant to Dongfang Yuan and the other level 8 elders. Dongfang Yuan and the others were not far from Murong Yu's residence. There had been such a big commotion here. Dongfang Yuan and the others should have reacted by now. Once discovered, Dongfang Yuan could kill this level 4 elder with one finger. However, why was there no sound at all? Murong Yu's heart sank. He had already thought of something. Don't be suspicious. I've already placed a restriction on your courtyard. Even if the sky and earth were to shatter here, no one outside would notice. Therefore, you'll definitely die today. Also, don't try to enter the space treasure again. I've already confined the space. You can't enter the space treasure. The middle-aged man said calmly, his eyes flashing with killing intent. Murong Yu's face was as gloomy as water. His eyes flashed with killing intent as he looked at the other party. I only have one question. I don't know you. Why did you take the risk to kill me here? The middle-aged man seemed to think that Murong Yu would definitely die. He smiled faintly and did not hide anything. You can only blame yourself for offending someone you shouldn't have. Our Thunderclap Valley's people are not that easy to kill. If you only killed Chenlei, that's fine. However, you shouldn't have seriously injured AI Xinghua. AI Xinghua is the grandson of our Valley Master. Therefore, our Valley Master has given the order to kill you. Therefore, you can go on your way in peace. Murong Yu was a little depressed. AI Xinghua's background was so powerful. Why did everyone who offended him have such a strong background? In the Sun sect, although Yi Tian was only a level 9 Bright World Realm, Muron Yu was only at the Chaotic World Realm. After killing Yi Tian with great difficulty, an even stronger level 2 Elder, Li Nan, appeared. Well, he used some tricks to kill Li Nan. Later, he found out that Li Nan's father was actually a level 8 Elder of the Sun sect. AI Xinghua was even more impressive. He was actually the grandson of the Thunderclap Valley's Valley Master. The Thunderclap Valley's Valley Master was a level 9 Creation Realm Master. He was a level 9 Elder in the Sun sect. Maybe AI Xinghua just ate the wrong medicine. What does it have to do with me? Although Muron Yu was a little unhappy, he was not scared by this level 4 Elder. With his strength, he could definitely resist the other party. Moreover, even if he resisted, he could still escape. After all, with his physique, how could a mere restriction trap him? However, what Muron Yu didn't expect was that the 4th rank Elder would appear just as he was about to make a breakthrough. Wouldn't that be a good opportunity to test his strength? He might even be able to kill him. Anyway, there were restrictions set up here. Even if the sky fell and the earth cracked, no one outside would know. It was just the right time for Muron Yu to show his strength. I'll say it again. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for offending someone you shouldn't have. The middle-aged man sneered and took a step forward. He was already closing in on Muron Yu. A bright smile suddenly appeared on Muron Yu's face. You think you can kill me? Have you never doubted that I haven't shown my true strength? The middle-aged man laughed. It's precisely because we have considered your true strength that I have to make a move. Otherwise, any level 2 Elder would be able to kill you. As he spoke, the middle-aged man had already made his move. His large hand reached out to grab Muron Yu's head. At this moment, Muron Yu had already raised his strength to the peak. He let out a long howl and took a step forward. He threw a punch forward. The middle-aged man sneered. Muron Yu was simply courting death. He was almost killed by his punch just now, and now he dared to fight back? He knew he was no match for him, and still dared to fight back. This was not smart. It was just too stupid. In the blink of an eye, the attacks from both sides had already collided fiercely in the void. An earth-shattering explosion erupted. Muron Yu's body trembled violently. He then retreated rapidly, smashing his house into pieces. On the other hand, the middle-aged man's body only swayed. He did not retreat even half a step. However, the middle-aged man was still shocked. Why was Muron Yu suddenly so brave and fierce, as if he had been injected with chicken blood? He was not like this just now. He did not know that a sneak attack just now had only caught Muron Yu off guard. Otherwise, Muron Yu would not have been in such a sorry state. Now that Muron Yu had come prepared, how could he still be in such a state? If he was still in such a state, he would have turned and fled long ago. The difference between level 3 and level 4 of the Creation Realm is still a little big. However, this guy's realm is a little unstable. He should have just broken through to level 4 of the Creation Realm. With such strength, with the addition of the weapon fragment, I should be able to kill him. Muron Yu thought in his heart. After calculating the difference between him and his opponent, he then raised both his fists and punched the middle-aged man, who was still in shock. The middle-aged man woke up with a start. His face revealed a ferocious expression. So this is your true strength. However, if this is the case, you have to die. Today, you will definitely die. As he spoke, he also rushed forward and used his great divine ability to fight fiercely with Muron Yu. Muron Yu also let out a long roar and unleashed his peak strength. He fought fiercely. Moreover, he did not use the weapon fragment. Instead, he treated the middle-aged man purely as a sparring partner. With the middle-aged man as his sparring partner, Muron Yu became more comfortable with his new strength. He became more skillful. The result was naturally that he became more and more powerful. The middle-aged man naturally noticed this long ago. Therefore, he wanted to kill Muron Yu. However, although Muron Yu's combat strength was not as good as his, it was basically impossible for him to kill Muron Yu. This was because Muron Yu's speed was simply too unpredictable. Chapter 1975. Old man, take a look at my full strength. Moron Yu suddenly shouted in the middle of the battle. Then, he took out the weapon fragment, which turned into a stream of light and slashed at the middle-aged man. After the battle, the middle-aged man stopped underestimating Moron Yu. When he saw Moron Yu take out the origin weapon, he became serious. However, that was all he could do. With a loud shout, he threw a punch at the weapon fragment, intending to knock it away. At the sight of this, Moron Yu coldly smiled. Holy Soul Slash. The strongest single soul attack was immediately launched. The middle-aged man's fist was about to hit the weapon fragment. However, at this moment, an extremely strong aura of death shrouded his heart. Even his soul was trembling violently. As a powerful existence in the fourth level of the creation realm, the middle-aged man reacted very quickly. Although he did not know what was going on, he immediately gathered a part of his power in his soul space to protect his soul. Boom! Just as his protective shield was formed, Moron Yu's soul attack had already slashed his soul. Poof! The protective shield that was just formed could not defend against Moron Yu's powerful soul attack at all, and it was immediately shattered. His soul was also attacked. Of course, this was because Moron Yu had caught his opponent off guard. Otherwise, he would not have been able to break through his opponent's power. Even if he managed to break through his opponent's protective shield, his soul had been greatly depleted. However, this was enough. After a muffled sound, a corner of the middle-aged man's soul was directly cut off. The intense pain almost caused the middle-aged man to faint. The pain of the soul was 1,000 times more painful than having the entire body destroyed. Only those who had experienced it would understand the pain. Holy Soul Slash. Moron Yu did not only use his soul attack once, but he used it repeatedly. Terrifying soul attacks were like rolling torrents as they slashed at the middle-aged man in a frenzy. At the same time, the shards of the weapon had already struck the hand of the middle-aged man who had withdrawn part of his power. After a loud explosion, the middle-aged man's hand was completely shattered. The middle-aged man's face was pale because of the intense pain. At the same time, an even stronger aura of death enveloped his heart, making it hard for him to breathe. He could only retreat again and again. You're a soul cultivator? A hint of fear flashed through the middle-aged man's eyes. Originally, Moron Yu could have barely blocked his attack with his bare hands. If he took out an origin artifact, he would be able to compete with him. If Moron Yu was still a soul cultivator, then how could he be a match for him? As he exclaimed, the middle-aged man had already taken out a creation origin artifact. However, he was only a 4th-rank elder of the Thunderclap Valley. How could he have anything good? Therefore, even if he used a manifestation origin artifact, it would only increase his strength by a little. However, Moron Yu was the one who had the upper hand. Under the continuous soul attacks, the middle-aged man could only use all his power to protect his soul. He was unable to attack Moron Yu at all. Therefore, the creation origin artifact that he took out only surrounded his body to block Moron Yu's attack. After a while, the middle-aged man heaved a sigh of relief. He discovered that even though Moron Yu was a soul cultivator, his soul attacks were unable to directly harm his soul under his all-out defense. However, the middle-aged man did not dare to relax. He did not even dare to withdraw a little bit of his power. This was because Moron Yu's soul was like a stormy sea, a violent storm, and a torrential rain. Once he withdrew his power, Moron Yu's soul attack would take the opportunity to enter and shatter his soul. However, Moron Yu's attack was not only a soul attack, but also an attack of the weapon shards. After obtaining the second weapon shard, the power of the weapon shard was even more terrifying. At the same time, Moron Yu's strength was also increasing. The combat power of a level 3 Bright World Realm Martial Artist was comparable to a level 3 Creation Realm Martial Artist. After taking out the weapon shard, Moron Yu's combat power was comparable to a level 4 Creation Realm Martial Artist, which was enough to cause great damage to the middle-aged man. Therefore, Moron Yu was now attacking from both sides. The soul attack and the weapon shard were attacking together. Clang! 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 In the beginning, the middle-aged man kept controlling his origin artifact to block the weapon shard. With the support of the other party, although the weapon shard was stronger than the other party, it was unable to break the other party's origin artifact. Therefore, both parties were in a stalemate for a while, and no one could do anything to the other. The middle-aged man was very aggrieved. He was a level 4 creation realm martial artist after all. A bright world realm martial artist who should be able to kill him a billion times with a finger was actually in a stalemate with him, and no one could do anything to the other. This was simply the greatest humiliation in his life. Moreover, he was a little regretful now. If he had not set up various restrictions here, he would have left secretly. He could not kill Murongyu. If it was a level 5 creation realm martial artist, he could crush Murongyu with a finger. However, there was no other way now. He could only drag out Murongyu's death. The middle-aged man believed that in terms of endurance and power, Murongyu would never be able to catch up to him. However, the middle-aged man did not know Murongyu's situation, so he dared to say that. Murongyu had the tree of life in his body, so his power was almost endless. Even a level 9 creation realm martial artist would not be able to outlast him, let alone a level 4 creation realm martial artist. Of course, the premise was that the level 9 creation realm martial artist did not kill him with a slap, but competed with him in terms of stamina. Murongyu had already expected this to happen. Therefore, he wasn't worried at all. However, he was a little puzzled. Aren't creation realm martial artists supposed to be able to create things? Why haven't I seen so many powerful martial artists use this divine ability? If I create some ferocious beasts, even if they're not very powerful, they can at least harass my opponent. However, this guy, Li Nan, Dongfang Lang, Dongfang Yuan, and the rest did not use this divine ability. This was something that Murongyu had never understood. However, after he reached the creation realm, he knew what was going on. Whoosh! The weapon fragment turned into a black stream of light again and blasted towards the middle-aged man. However, it was a little different this time. There was a faint electric light in the black light. However, the middle-aged man did not notice it and used his essence weapon to block the weapon fragment like before. Boom! Just as the middle-aged man's weapon blocked the weapon fragment, there was a sudden flash of electric light on the weapon fragment. Terrifying lightning instantly filled the space and enveloped the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was caught off guard, and his entire body was blasted by the terrifying lightning. In an instant, all his clothes were turned into powder. A meaty fragrance continuously wafted from the middle-aged man's body. His entire body was charred black, and it was obvious that he had been cooked by the lightning. However, this was only on the surface. In fact, the middle-aged man's power had stagnated for a moment after being electrocuted. Holy Soul Slash. Seizing this opportunity, Murongyu once again slashed at the middle-aged man's soul with a soul attack. Then, a corner of the middle-aged man's soul was shattered again. The middle-aged man's soul was no longer complete, and it directly affected his power. The explosion of the Dark Thunder Bead caused the middle-aged man's physical body to begin to shatter. Kill! Murongyu roared and began his most violent attack. The weapon fragment, soul attack, Azure True Thunder Technique, and even the Dark Thunder Bead bombarded the middle-aged man. However, Murongyu felt that it was a pity that the lightning in the Dark Thunder Bead was not powerful enough to kill the middle-aged man immediately. If the middle-aged man was only in the creation realm, he would have died immediately. However, even so, the middle-aged man did not have it easy. His physical body was severely injured in an instant. Most importantly, Murongyu seized this opportunity to severely injure the middle-aged man's soul again. As his soul was severely injured, the middle-aged man's power could no longer reach its peak. He could not even reach the 4th level of the creation realm. 3rd level of the creation realm? Murongyu's combat power was enough to kill him at this level. Therefore, after a series of attacks, the middle-aged man's soul was directly destroyed by Murongyu in front of his remorseful eyes. He could not be more dead. A dignified 4th-grade elder had been killed by Murongyu just like that. He did not know if it was sad or lamentable. However, Before he came to kill Morongyu, he should have known that he would be killed instead. After all, Morongyu is not an ordinary person. Plop. After killing the level 4 elder, Morongyu sat on the ground and panted heavily. It was not because he had used up too much energy, but because he had used up too much energy. After all, the middle-aged man was a level 4 elder. He was much more powerful than Morongyu. During the battle, Morongyu's state of mind, essence, and spirit were constantly at their peak. Furthermore, every move he made was meticulously calculated. Although he had killed the middle-aged man in the end, Morongyu was still very tired. While he was comprehending every detail of the battle, Morongyu felt a lingering fear. If he did not have the weapon fragments, if he was not a soul cultivator, if he did not have the Dark Thunder Pearl, he would have been killed by the middle-aged man. Of course, even without the Dark Thunder Pearl, Morongyu could still kill the middle-aged man. However, it would take a long time to kill the middle-aged man. However, the middle-aged man's soul and weapon fragments were still very important. Of course, all of these were because of Morongyu's power. They were all obtained by Morongyu through various life and death situations. They were part of his power. It was because he kept taking risks and obtaining various treasures that he had the power he had now. Otherwise, he would have been killed long ago. How could he become a level 3 bright world realm being? An existence comparable to a level 3 creation realm being? Therefore, Morongyu kept taking risks. Although he experienced life and death every time, it was very meaningful to him. Otherwise, if he cultivated in the Sun sect, when could he reach a higher realm? Chapter 1976. After digesting the experience of this battle, Morongyu did not repair this courtyard, nor did he break the restriction that shrouded this place. Instead, he swaggered out of here. The people of Thunderclap Valley actually dared to send someone to assassinate him, and it was in the Golden Flame Castle. They were really too rampant, although the 4th rank elder was killed by Morongyu in the end. But it did not mean that Morongyu let the people of Thunderclap Valley go. Therefore, he summoned Dongfang Lang, Dongfang Yuan, and the others. When they heard that Thunderclap Valley had actually sent someone to assassinate Morongyu, Dongfang Lang and the others were shocked and angry. They were angry that Thunderclap Valley dared to send someone to assassinate Morongyu. What shocked them the most was that Morongyu had actually managed to kill the 4th grade elder. His strength was truly frightening, and the more powerful Morongyu was, the more Dongfang Lang and the others felt that becoming Morongyu's slave might not be a bad thing, but a good thing? Perhaps Morongyu could really become a supreme existence in the insight realm in the future. When a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs can ascend to heaven. If Morongyu really did become an existence at the profound underworld realm, or even higher, then all of them would ascend to the heavens. At that time, the benefits they would receive would be unimaginable. Of course, the premise was that Morongyu could live to break through to the insight realm, or even a higher realm. My lord, do you want me to kill those 8th rank elders? Dongfang Lang said with a cold face and murderous aura. Now, Morongyu is not only his master, but also his ability to reach the insight realm, or even a higher realm. If the people of Thunderclap Valley wanted to kill Morongyu, it was no different from wanting to kill him. Kill a few 8th rank elders? Dongfang Yuan and the others heard this and broke out in a cold sweat. With Dongfang Lang's strength, he could naturally kill the other party's 8th rank elders without anyone knowing. But the death of an 8th rank elder, the people of Thunderclap Valley would immediately suspect Dongfang Lang. After all, only Dongfang Lang and 10 other people were able to kill an 8th grade elder without making a sound. At that time, a great battle would break out between the two forces. At that time, the other 8 forces would also be involved. At that time, it would only benefit the Solar Sect and Lunar Sect. Morongyu shook his head. The Thunderclap Valley's rank 8 elders, and even the Valley Master had to die. However, he wanted to deal with them personally. He did not want to borrow Dongfang Lang's strength. It was better to take revenge with one's own hands. You only need to ask for some benefits from Thunderclap Valley. Hee, let's first collect some interest and then slowly settle the score with them. Moronyu said with a sneer. Dongfang Lang nodded slightly and then left with the crowd. However, before they left, Dongfang Yuan and the other grade 8 elders wanted to stay behind to protect Moronyu. In the end, they were rejected by Moronyu. His safety could still be guaranteed. If Dongfang Yuan and the others were by his side to protect him, he would not be able to achieve his goal of gaining experience, and his strength would not be able to increase. Oftentimes, it was easiest to increase one's strength between life and death. One day later, Dongfang Lang returned with a smile on his face. After seeing Moronyu, he first handed over a spatial treasure to Moronyu as if he was presenting a treasure. Moronyu took the spatial treasure and looked at it. Immediately, he was stunned. There were not many things in the spatial treasure. There were only 10 creation stage origin tools, the top creation stage origin tools. There were also various creation stage medicinal pills and countless heaven and earth treasures. Even if the total wealth of the 6 great forces of Tianwu world were added together, it was not even 1/10,000th of this wealth. One could imagine that after giving out these things, Thunderclap Valley would definitely feel incomparably painful. My lord, Thunderclap Valley originally refused to admit it. However, in the end, I took out the image you gave me. Then, Thunderclap Valley became mute. Especially AI Feiqi. That old man's face was even darker. Ha! Dongfang Lang laughed loudly. In fact, the Dongfang family had always been at the bottom. Although Thunderclap Valley was second to last, their results were still better than the Dongfang family. Therefore, Dongfang Lang had been constantly ridiculed by AI Feiqi all these years. Now that Dongfang Lang was able to trick the other party, he was naturally very happy. Furthermore, this time, Thunderclap Valley had tried to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. AI Feiqi was probably so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Moronyu naturally kept these treasures without any trace of politeness. One day later, the leaders of the 10 great forces and the elders of the 8 great forces, as well as the top 10 of the individual competition, gathered together. Swish! Moronyu had just arrived when he felt numerous gazes filled with intense killing intent looking at him. Moronyu did not even need to look to know that these people were from Thunderclap Valley. As expected, Moronyu saw that everyone, including Thunderclap Valley's Valley Master AI Feiqi, was looking at him with a dark expression. AI Feiqi's gaze only swept past Moronyu, but the killing intent contained in it was extremely terrifying. Moronyu dared to guarantee that if Dongfang Lang and the others were not here, this old man would definitely not have any scruples and would directly attack him and kill him. Other than him, the elders of the 8 great forces were also looking at Moronyu with murderous intent. Naturally, this included the unlucky disciple, AI Xinghua. Hey, AI Xinghua, what's wrong with you? You seem to have lost your life. Are you going to die soon? Are you still going to the Blazing Light secret realm this time? Be careful not to die in there. You're the most promising person of the younger generation in Thunderclap Valley. Moronyu did not seem to feel those murderous gazes as he walked straight over and greeted AI Xinghua. AI Xinghua and the others' faces could not help but twitch. In particular, AI Xinghua was looking at Moronyu with hatred in his eyes. It was all because of Moronyu that he was where he was today. Although he did not know what method Moronyu used, it was definitely because of him. Therefore, Moronyu was not greeting him at all. It was like a weasel greeting a chicken. He was completely up to no good. Dongfang Lang and the others were laughing in their hearts. It turned out that their lord was also such a black-bellied person. Aya, why aren't you talking? Are you so badly injured that you can't even speak? How pitiful. In this state, it's better that you don't enter the Blazing Light secret realm. Otherwise, people will be sad if you die. Moronyu continued with an indifferent expression on his face. Scram! AI Xinghua's face darkened, and his eyes were filled with hatred as he roared. Moronyu shrugged and left immediately. If he continued, He did not dare to think that AI Feichi would disregard everything and kill him with a slap. Before Muronyu and the others arrived, the people from the other 9 forces had already arrived. Apart from AI Xinhua, the other 8 people who were in the top 10 walked over and greeted Muronyu. Regardless of what realm Muronyu was in, he was still the most powerful person among them, regardless of whether it was for their own sake, their families, or their forces. It was necessary for them to build a good relationship with Muronyu. Even if they could not become friends, they should at least not become enemies. Otherwise, once such a monstrous person reached the creation realm, his terrifying strength would be comparable to a half-step to insight state. By then, who among the 9 forces would be his match? If Muronyu continued to grow, his enemies would definitely suffer a tragedy, unless they could strangle Muronyu in the cradle of his growth. Muronyu could sense that although these people were trying to get close to him with smiles on their faces, however, every single one of them wanted him dead. It seemed like the trip to the Blazing Light's secret realm this time would be fraught with danger. Apart from the Dongfang family who would not attack him, the people from the other 9 forces would definitely attack him. In fact, the LV8 elders and even their masters who were at Creation Realm level 9 would attack him too. All of a sudden, Muronyu felt immense pressure. However, pressure was also a motivation. If they wanted to kill him, they would have to be prepared to kill him. The Blazing Light's secret realm was within the territory of the Golden Flame Castle, but it was not on the Golden Flame planet. Therefore, the most powerful people from the top 10 families and the most powerful people from the Bright World realm immediately set off for the Blazing Light secret realm. After a day, they arrived at the entrance of the Blazing Light secret realm. This place was actually a vast and boundless desert. As far as the eye could see, it was a stretch of yellow sand. However, after arriving, everyone's face turned solemn. Even Muronyu was the same. This was because the desert gave him a sense of danger, as if there was a terrifying existence hidden here that would jump out at any time and give them a fatal blow. Master, there's no way to verify how long this desert has existed. It's like another space. The space inside is huge, and there are even terrifying beasts at Creation Realm level 9 and half-step to insight state. His divine was also greatly suppressed inside. Therefore, don't be too far away from me later. At this moment, Dongfang Lang's voice rang in Murongyu's ears. This is the Blazing Light secret realm. Muronyu frowned slightly, and the sense of danger in his heart grew stronger. He even had a bad feeling about this. Dongfang Lang quickly replied, "This is not the Blazing Light secret realm. The entrance to the Blazing Light secret realm is in the deepest part of the desert. We're entering now. Be careful." As he spoke, everyone had already launched their figures and shot toward the depths of the desert. As for Dongfang Lang, he sent out a wave of energy to sweep Muronyu up and bring him inside. As for AI Xinhua and the others, they were brought in by the leaders of their forces. Yellow sand entered their eyes, but the sky was blue. Other than the sun hanging high in the sky, there were no white clouds at all. As soon as Muronyu entered the desert, he felt an incomparable heat. Soon after, traces of sweat seeped out of his pores. After a while, Muronyu even felt thirsty. He was sweating and thirsty. How could this phenomenon, which should only be experienced by mortals, appear on Bright World Realm or even Creation Realm experts? This was too strange, wasn't it? Yes, it was strange. At this moment, Muronyu seemed to have become a mortal again and was experiencing the scorching heat of the sun. Moreover, Muronyu was not the only one who was experiencing this situation. Dongfang Lang and the other Creation Realm Level 9 experts were also experiencing the same situation. It was as if their powers were useless in this desert. Gurgle, gurgle. I, Xinhua, who was the weakest here, took out a bottle of water and drank. No one laughed at him because everyone had the urge to drink water. Chapter 1977. The situation was getting weirder and weirder. Muronyu could even see that his body was beginning to lack water. If he did not replenish the water, he would become dry. During this process, Muronyu used his power to form a power shield on the surface of his body to protect his body and prevent all attacks. However, it was completely useless as the water in his body was still constantly being lost. This made him feel very strange. At this time, except for Muronyu, the rest of the 10 weaklings were frantically drinking water to replenish the water lost in their bodies. However, he realized that once these people drank the water, they could not stop. Instead, they kept drinking water as if they were addicted. Muronyu forcibly operated his power to lock the water in his body. Even if he could not lock it, he could minimize the speed of loss to the greatest extent. This was because he felt that this place was very strange, and it was definitely not as simple as losing water. My lord, if you don't want to drink water, try not to drink water. The more water you drink, the faster the water in your body will be lost. Dongfang Lang's voice sounded in Murongyu's ears. Muronyu nodded and suddenly understood. No wonder those people could not stop after drinking water. It turned out that this was the case. Fortunately, Dongfang Lang and the others were very fast, and it did not take long for them to go deep into the desert. However, the deeper they went, the stronger the feeling of thirst became. Looking up, the sun in the sky seemed to be bigger, and the sunlight became more and more scorching. During this process, some strange ferocious beasts constantly appeared under the desert and attacked Muronyu and the others. However, they were all dealt with by Dongfang Lang and the others. With their strength, as long as they did not encounter a ferocious beast of the half-step insight realm or a large group of ferocious beasts of the 9th level of the creation realm, they could not block their attacks at all. However, during this process, Muronyu discovered a strange thing. All the ferocious beasts in the desert, no matter what kind of ferocious beast or whether they were strong or not, their bodies were watery, as if they had drilled out of the water. Could it be that there was an underground river below? When Muronyu asked Dongfang Lang this question, Dongfang Lang shook his head and denied it. When they first entered this place, they also had the same idea. They even went deep underground, but they didn't find any underground rivers. Then, why were those ferocious beasts so watery? What's more, aren't they afraid of the heat here? Muronyu fell into deep thought. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Murongyu's mind. Could it be like this? When he was still a mortal in the mortal realm, Muronyu knew a very special thing. In nature, all plants and animals that grew alongside highly toxic substances often had the ability to detoxify them. For example, a certain unknown plant grew near a certain poisonous creature that could kill as soon as it touched blood. Once someone accidentally ate the poisonous plant, they would immediately consume an unknown plant that grew nearby to detoxify the poison. These ferocious beasts lived in the desert and did not show any signs of thirst. In that case, if they ate their flesh, would they be able to relieve the thirst of these intruders? Muronyu was a little impulsive and wanted to test it immediately. But in the end, reason prevailed, and he didn't try it immediately. Instead, he chose to ask Dongfang Lang first. Dongfang Lang looked at Muronyu in amazement. My lord, can it be like this? We didn't find it. And the ferocious beasts here are too disgusting. No one has ever eaten their flesh and blood before. Muronyu was speechless. Could it be that they, who had reached the 9th level of the creation realm, didn't know the truth that even mortals knew? The more this was the case, the stronger Murongyu's desire to try it was. So, after Dongfang Lang killed a ferocious beast that looked like a dog, Muronyu secretly put the dog into the Hichu Luo Shu. The others didn't notice Murongyu's action at all, and even if they did, they didn't take it seriously. Maybe Muronyu had a special hobby? In the Hichu Luo Shu, Muronyu first checked the ferocious beast's flesh and blood. He found that the power contained in the dog's flesh and blood was not weak. Moreover, Muronyu also found that the ferocious beast's flesh and blood contained a large amount of water. No poison. After a preliminary examination, Muronyu found that the ferocious beast was not poisonous. So, Muronyu began to barbecue it with the clone that he condensed. After a while, a burst of meat fragrance floated in the Hichu Luo Shu. The flesh and blood of a ferocious beast in the creation realm contains rich power, and the fragrance must be very strong. But isn't this too strong? Compared to the flesh and blood of a ferocious beast of the same realm in other places, the fragrance is more than 100 times stronger. Murong Yu felt a little strange, and he couldn't help but want to eat. In the end, Murong Yu's original body entered the Hichu Luo Shu. The top 10 forces didn't lack space treasures that could carry living people. Therefore, the others didn't find this situation strange. However, when they saw Murong Yu enter the space treasure, the people from the other forces couldn't help but sneer. In particular, the other 9 people who were in the top 10 with Murong Yu were extremely disdainful of Murong Yu. They all thought that Murong Yu was hiding in the space treasure because he was afraid of the desert. Didn't he know that he would feel thirsty even in the space treasure? After entering the Hichu Luo Shu, Murong Yu couldn't help but eat heartily. As soon as the ferocious beast meat entered his mouth, Murong Yu felt refreshed. After eating 2 fist-sized pieces of meat, he found that the feeling of thirst had completely disappeared. It's really effective. Murong Yu was pleasantly surprised, so he began to study it. Then he found that the flesh and blood of these ferocious beasts contained a special power. This power could quickly replenish the water in his body, and even lock the water in his body. Although he still couldn't stop the loss of water after locking it, the speed of loss was 100 times slower than normal. The loss of water would more or less affect a cultivator, especially in a battle between powerhouses of the same realm. Even the slightest effect would affect the final result. After thinking about it, Murong Yu barbecued all the remaining ferocious beast meat. Then he left the Hichu Luo Shu and gave the barbecued ferocious beast meat to Dongfang Lang, Dongfang Yuan, and the others. At the same time, Murong Yu directly explained the effects of these ferocious beast meat in their minds. Dongfang Lang and the others were suddenly stunned and couldn't wait to eat. Of course, they did it very secretly and didn't let other people find out. Murong Yu was not a good person who would tell these benefits to the people of the other forces. It would be best if they all died in the desert. Then the Dongfang family could control their territory and become the 3rd largest force in the solar system. However, Dongfang Lang and the others were also very insidious. After eating the ferocious beast meat, they pretended to be exhausted and began to drink water continuously. On the surface, the people of the Dongfang family were much weaker than the other 9 forces. In fact, these guys were very black-bellied. After discovering the effects of the ferocious beast meat, Dongfang Lang and the others began to openly collect the meat of the beheaded ferocious beasts. Even if these ferocious beast meat had no special effects, it was worth it just because it was more delicious than other ferocious beasts. The other 9 forces all looked at Dongfang Lang and the others with disdainful gazes, full of disdain. Suddenly, a mournful scream came from the advancing crowd. This sudden scream startled Murong Yu and the others. They looked in the direction of the sound and saw a scene that made their hair stand on end. The scream came from a level 8 elder of the Yu family, one of the top 10 forces. When Murong Yu and the others looked over, the elder of the Yu family was only left with a skeleton. Wisps of green smoke were coming out of the skeleton. In the next moment, the originally sparkling and translucent bones had already turned pale white. At the same time, the bones were riddled with small holes, one after another. In another moment, the bones of the level 8 elder had shrunk by a circle. It was obvious that his bones had been corroded, and the speed of corrosion was accelerating. The people of the Yu family suddenly reacted, and one by one, they burst out with power to rescue him. However, it was all in vain. Even though they reacted in time, they still watched the level 8 elder turn into a wisp of green smoke in a few breaths and disappear in front of everyone. A dignified 8th rank elder had died, just like that, in such a baffling way. And from the beginning to the end, Murong Yu and the others did not find anything unusual. Sky Spider, a level 8 elder of the Thunder Valley, cried out in alarm with a pale face and then retreated quickly. At the same time, Dongfang Lang and the others also retreated quickly. However, it was too late. A second scream came out. This time, it was a level 8 elder of the Wang family who was affected. Morong, you finally found something. An almost invisible black light suddenly shot out from the ground and directly entered the body of the level 8 elder. Then, the level 8 elder met with a tragic end. The sky spider was under their feet. Everyone was so scared that they hurriedly rushed to the sky. Each of them burst out with power and formed a shield around them, protecting themselves firmly. And the level 8 elder of the Wang family, who was affected, followed in the footsteps of the Yu family's level 8 elder. He turned into a wisp of green smoke in a few breaths and couldn't be more dead. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths. Some people's eyes even showed fear. The sky spider was really too terrifying. Before it appeared, it had already killed 2 level 8 elders. Sky spider. Information about the sky spider instantly appeared in Murong Yu's mind. The sky spider was actually not very strong. Its peak was only at the 9th level of the creation realm. However, its venom was extremely terrifying. It could even poison a half-step insight realm expert to death. Even a half-step insight realm expert could be poisoned to death, let alone these level 8 elders. And, judging from the venom of this sky spider, it was most likely a level 9 ferocious beast. Chapter 1978. Puffed, puffed, puffed. All of a sudden, the ground where Murong Yu and the others were standing suddenly erupted with sand. In the next moment, a 16-legged spider the size of a calf appeared in front of Murong Yu and the others. Ordinary spiders only had 8 legs, but the sky spider had 16 legs. And this was not the most special thing about the sky spider. The most special thing was that the sky spider's venom did not come from its mouth, but from its 16 legs. After the sky spider appeared, a pair of bell-sized eyes rolled around as it looked at Murong Yu and the others in the sky. Looking at the sky spider covered in green fur, Murong Yu suddenly felt a little nauseous. The sky spider was too disgusting. Just looking at it made one's hair stand on end. Stomp! The sky spider's 16 legs suddenly exerted force and stomped on the yellow sand underground. Suddenly, 16 huge holes appeared in the yellow sand under its feet. As for the heavenly spider, it borrowed the force of the jump to soar into the sky and pounced towards Murong Yu and the others. During this process, the sky spider's 16 legs suddenly extended and stabbed at the 16 people. Originally, other than the terrifying sky spider venom, the sky spider's combat strength was not that terrifying. But the key point was that its 16 legs contained the extremely terrifying sky spider venom. Even an existence at Dongfang Lang's level would probably die instantly if he was stabbed by such a leg. Therefore, when they saw the sky spider attacking, the expressions of Dongfang Lang and the others instantly changed. Kill him! Dongfang Lang shouted loudly and made the first move. He formed a large hand of power and fiercely attacked the sky spider's leg that was thrusting over. At the same time, the others also attacked and unleashed their strongest attacks. The 10 9th level creation realm experts each targeted one of the sky spider's legs, while the remaining 6 legs were entangled by the 8th level elders of the 10 major forces. Seeing that it was being besieged and that there were 10 cultivators who were about the same level as it. However, the sky spider did not shrink in the slightest. Its attack did not even stop as it continued to attack at an extremely fast speed. Rumble, after a series of earth-shattering explosions, all of the 8th grade elders from the top 10 forces were sent flying by the terrifying power. Although the few of them had joined forces to attack one of the legs, a level 8 creation realm martial artist was still a level 8 creation realm martial artist. They were no match for a level 9 creation realm martial artist. Thus, he was directly sent flying. On the contrary, Dongfang Lang and the others were evenly matched with the sky spider. Both of them were at the 9th level of the creation realm, so it was normal for them to be on par with each other. However, the faces of Dongfang Lang and the others were even gloomier than before. One had to know that they had 10 ninth level creation realm cultivators. Although the heavenly spider was also in the ninth stage of the creation realm, there was only one of it. One of them was equivalent to all of them combined. The situation was not optimistic. This sky spider is truly terrifying. Each of its legs is equivalent to my strength. In other words, one sky spider was equivalent to 16 ninth level creation realm cultivators. This doesn't include his terrifying sky spider poison water. Murong Yu's expression changed slightly as he thought to himself. Obviously, Dongfang Lang and the others also knew about this, which was why their faces were gloomy. Retreat. Dongfang Lang and the other 10 people looked at each other. After giving each other a look, they flew out. They came to the Lai Guang's secret realm, not to be enemies with the sky spider. The reason why the sky spider attacked them was only because they had passed through its territory. Puff, however, how could the sky spider let them go so easily? Just as Dongfang Lang and the others moved, the sky spider's 16 legs trembled violently. In the next moment, streams of sky spider poison water shot out like a storm, rapidly shrouding Murong Yu and the others. Set up the shield. AI Feiqi roared and was the first to set up the shield. He even took out a powerful origin weapon to block behind him. The others were not slow and did the same. Of course, they did not slow down at all. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Everyone was so fast that they crossed an extremely long distance in an instant. Even so, they were still unable to escape the impact of the sky spider poison water. The raindrops of sky spider poison water first hit the origin weapons they had taken out. Apart from Murong Yu and the other 10 rookies, the weakest ones who could come here were 8th level elders. As elders of the 10 great clans, their origin weapons were definitely high-grade creation realm origin weapons. Even so, their origin weapons could not withstand the corrosion of the sky spider poison water. Small holes immediately appeared on the origin weapons that were hit by the sky spider poison water. The origin weapons that bore the brunt of the attack were densely packed with small holes like honeycombs. They were all corroded by the sky spider poison water. Crack! Suddenly, the creation realm origin weapon of an 8th level elder from the Thunderclap Valley let out a crisp sound. Then, it shattered into thousands of pieces. At this moment, a large amount of sky spider poison water still shot over. The 8th level elder was horrified. His speed increased sharply, and he was about to shoot backward. At the same time, the other 8th rank elders of the Thunderclap Valley, including the Thunderclap Valley's Valley Master AI Feiqi, also sent out a punch towards the Heavenly Spider's poison water, trying to save this 8th rank elder. However, the 8th level elder was too close to the sky spider poison water. AI Feiqi and the others could not save him at all. As a result, the 8th rank elder was bombarded by the sky spider poison water. Originally, just a drop of sky spider poison water was enough to turn an 8th level elder into ashes in a few breaths. However, this 8th level elder was actually covered by the sky spider poison water. In less than an instant, the 8th level elder had already disappeared from everyone's sight. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Seeing this, the others no longer held back. One by one, they took out their origin weapons and used them to block the sky spider poison water. Although these origin weapons were precious, how could they be more precious than their lives? If they lost their origin weapons, they could get more in the future. However, if they lost their lives, they would have nothing left. However, the people present were not to be trifled with. They were all very strong. Apart from Elder who was killed, no one else died from the sky spider poison water. In the end, everyone managed to escape. However, their expressions were unsightly. Everyone's origin tools were damaged to varying degrees. Just repairing the damage to their origin tools was already a huge loss for them. Moreover, many of the 8th level Elders' origin weapons were corroded and shattered. After entering this place, they did not gain anything. On the contrary, they suffered great losses. At this moment, they all had a strong desire to kill the sky spider. However, the sky spider poison water was too terrifying. They no longer dared to go near it. Perhaps only half-step nether inside experts dare to go near it. However, even half-step nether inside experts could be poisoned to death by the sky spider poison water. Everyone's expression was extremely gloomy, especially the Thunderclap Valley, the Wong clan, and the Yu clan who had lost their 8th level elders. Only the Dongfang clan looked slightly more relaxed, although they were also in a sorry state just now. On the Dongfang clan side, everyone was in peak condition because of the ferocious beast meat. When they were in peak condition, they naturally burst out with their peak strength. The stronger one was, the more terrifying the power of the origin weapon would be. Therefore, no one from the Dongfang clan had their origin weapons destroyed by the sky spider poison water. At most, they were only slightly damaged. These could be repaired when they returned. The price should not be too high. What should we do next? The leaders of the top 10 forces gathered together and said with a gloomy face. In addition to the strange thirst in this desert, there were many different kinds of ferocious beasts. Ordinary ferocious beasts were nothing. Even half-step nether insight realm ferocious beasts could be defeated or even killed by them. However, the most terrifying ferocious beasts in the desert were not those half-step nether insight realm ferocious beasts, but the sky spider. A sky spider that was on par with them had caused a large group of top experts to flee in panic. This made them feel very aggrieved. Since we're already here, we can only continue forward, Dongfang Lang said with a slight frown. No matter what, he could not give up on the trip to the Lai Guang's secret realm. The deeper we go, the higher the possibility of encountering sky spiders. Previously, there was only one sky spider. If we encounter several at the same time, I'm afraid we'll be wiped out, the Yu clan master said in a deep voice. Judging from his tone, it seemed like he wanted to retreat. If we go back like this, how can we go to the Lai Guang's secret realm to search for treasures in the future? Moreover, if we're so bizarre, wouldn't those who died have died in vain? I suggest we continue forward. We just need to be more vigilant, the Li clan master said in a deep voice. The others also nodded. They all agreed to continue forward to the Lai Guang's secret realm. However, as for how to proceed, that would have to be carefully discussed. Therefore, Dongfang Lang and the others began to discuss. This is the sky spider poison water? While Dongfang Lang and the others were discussing, Murong Yu's divine thought had already entered the Hichu Luo Shu. In the void of the Hichu Luo Shu, there were more than 10 raindrops floating quietly, but they were green. An extremely dangerous aura was constantly emitted from these raindrops. In fact, Murong Yu even saw that the void around these raindrops was constantly corroding. This was the sky spider poison water, which was the venom spat out by the sky spiders. Previously, during the chaos, Murong Yu secretly used the Hichu Luo Shu to get it. Although there were only a dozen drops of sky spider poison water, it was enough to kill a level 9 creation realm supreme existence. With these 10 or so drops of heavenly spider poison water, Murong Yu had one more trump card up his sleeve, giving him even more confidence. At this moment, even if he encountered Li Jiang, Murong Yu was not afraid at all. If the other party dared to challenge him, Murong Yu would directly throw out the sky spider poison water and poison the other party to death. So what if he was an 8th level elder? One drop could kill the other party within a few breaths, not to mention that Murong Yu had a dozen drops. Even a dozen Li Jiangs would be poisoned to death. Chapter 1979. Only a dozen drops. That's too little. It would be great if we could collect 1 or 2 buckets. Murong Yu shook his head helplessly with a look of pity. If others knew that Murong Yu was so smug, they would probably slap him, right? In the outside world, a drop of sky spider venom from a 9th level creation realm sky spider was extremely expensive, and it was priceless. After all, even a rookie rebirth realm cultivator could use this to kill a half-step insight realm cultivator. How valuable was this thing? Moreover, because the heavenly spider venom was too toxic and corrosive, even a quasi-nether insight expert was unable to seal it, let alone store it. Therefore, even if one obtained it, they could not store it. However, this was not a problem for Murong-yu, a formation master. He only used a dozen or so jade bottles to store the heavenly spider venom water. There was no special method. Murong-yu just set up some formations and restrictions in the jade bottles. With the suppression of these restrictions and formations, the sky spider venom would not evaporate or corrode the jade bottles, so it could be stored well. After doing all this, Murong-yu's divine thought withdrew from the Hichu Luo Shu. At this time, Dongfang Lang and the others had already discussed it. In fact, there was no good way. Everyone just formed a group and advanced and retreated together. Once they encountered a sky spider, they would attack together. This was the only way. Therefore, everyone continued to move forward. In the process, they encountered many sneak attacks from ferocious beasts. Everyone was still holding back their anger because of the sky spider. Now that these ferocious beasts came out to attack, it was a good chance for everyone to vent their anger. As a result, each and every one of the powerhouses who had been suppressing their anger attacked the ferocious beasts in a frenzy. In the end, these ferocious beasts who were courting death were killed without leaving even a trace. This made Murong-yu very depressed. He really wanted to yell at these people. Do you know that this is very wasteful? However, although Murong-yu was depressed, he still did not tell them that these ferocious beasts could quench their thirst. After all, even though they were working together temporarily, it was only temporary. Once they encountered any treasure, they would definitely fight. Everyone avoided the sky spider from before and took a detour in another direction to continue forward. A few more days passed, but they still had not reached the Lai Guang's secret realm. 5 days later, they encountered another sky spider. However, because everyone's vigilance had increased a lot, this sky spider was discovered by everyone before it could make a sneak attack. Thus, everyone began to frantically flee. In the end, they actually managed to escape. Although this made them feel very embarrassed, it was better to lose face than to lose their lives. Moreover, as long as they didn't say anything, who would tell anyone about what happened today? In the past few days, they had also encountered some sandstorms. The sandstorm was less terrifying than the sky spider, but it was still as dangerous as a half-step netherworld insight expert. It was even more dangerous than encountering a half-step netherworld insight expert. Fortunately, the sandstorm's characteristics were very obvious and could be seen from afar. However, Murong-yu and the others managed to avoid it. In the end, everyone entered the depths of the desert without any mishap. Following that, a gigantic altar appeared in front of Murong-yu and the others. Ever since they entered the desert, all they could see was endless yellow sand. It could be said that yellow sand was everywhere. However, within 10,000 miles of the altar, there was not a single grain of yellow sand. Instead, it was filled with green trees. It was like an oasis in the desert. Master, this altar is the teleportation door to the Lai Guang secret realm. Let's open it. Dongfang Lang's voice rang in Murong-yu's ears. Then, he walked out of the crowd and walked toward the altar. At the same time, the leaders of the other 9 forces walked toward the altar one after another. There were 10 gigantic pits on the altar. Dongfang Lang and the others each walked into one of the pits. Then, they quickly took out a large number of origin crystals from their interspatial treasures and threw them into the pits. It was that simple to open the altar. All they needed to do was to put in enough origin crystals. Not long after, the altar emitted a light that soared into the sky. Rumble, the ground began to tremble. An inexplicable and mysterious power was emitted from the altar. "Come up quickly," Dongfang Lang said in a deep voice. Then, Murong-yu and the others quickly rushed into the altar. After Murong-yu and the others went up, the light emitted from the altar had already enveloped the entire altar. Whoosh! Murong-yu felt the scenery in front of him change. After his body was lifted into the air, he landed on the ground again in the next moment. Murong-yu looked around and realized that he seemed to be in a city. It was a rather dilapidated and huge city. As far as his eyes could see, the buildings had collapsed and broken into pieces. However, in the center of the city, there was a gigantic statue that towered into the clouds. Is this the Lai Guang secret realm? While looking around, Murong is also waiting for Dongfang Lang and the others. However, after waiting for a while, he did not see Dongfang Lang and the others appear. Apart from himself, there was no one else in the vicinity. Murong could not help but feel gloomy. The situation was very unfavorable for him. If he had met the level 8 elders of the other forces first, or even their leaders, those people would definitely have slapped him to death with a single slap. If it was Murong himself, he would also be a little afraid of someone as monstrous as himself. After waiting for a while, still no one appeared. Therefore, Murong did not plan to continue waiting. Instead, he chose to move forward. The Lai Guang secret realm. Before it was destroyed, it should have been a huge and prosperous city. This was because it could be seen from the size of the city. Moreover, Murong realized that even the Sunstar city was not as big as this. Could it be that this place had surpassed the level of the Sun sect before it declined? However, how could such a powerful existence decline overnight? Murong casually entered a few rooms to take a look. In these rooms, except for the people who had disappeared into thin air, the furniture and furnishings inside were still intact. Of course, under the washing of the long river of time, many things had actually been shattered. With a gentle breeze, these things would all turn into fine powder. In this case, what else had not been turned into dust? This dilapidated city had existed for a long time. After a while, Murong arrived in front of a rather luxurious dilapidated building and then walked in. This should be the headquarters of a force, Murong said with certainty after taking a few steps. This was because he saw some martial arts arenas, secret cultivation rooms, and the like. He even saw some elixir stores, origin weapon stores, heaven and earth treasures, and so on. Unfortunately, those elixirs and heaven and earth treasures had been turned into dust by time. However, Murong still had some gains. He obtained a few origin weapons of the creation realm. One of them was an advanced creation realm origin weapon. This game was already very rich for ordinary people. It seems that this force is just an ordinary force in this dilapidated city. However, an ordinary force has a top-level creation realm origin weapon. What if it's a top force in this city? What level has it reached? Murong's heart skipped a beat, and he was a little excited. If he could obtain a large number of top-level creation realm origin weapons, or even nether realm origin weapons, his strength would definitely increase rapidly. It was even possible for him to break through to the creation realm in one go. This force might have left behind their inheritance or combat skills. Murong continued to search here, and it did not take long for him to find a room that was similar to the library. Dong! Just as Murong was about to enter the library, footsteps were heard from not far away. Then, a figure appeared at the corner on the other side. When he saw the person, Murong was first stunned, then he revealed a bright smile. His reaction was almost exactly the same as Murong's. After seeing Murong, the other party was also stunned, but then he revealed an extremely resentful look, as if he wanted to eat Murong alive.